everybody. Welcome to a brand new Ike Live. The show is brought to you by some amazing companies, including the presenting sponsor of Ike Live, Mystery Tackle Box MTB. It's like happiness right to your doorstep once a month. Mystery Tackle Box puts brand new lures, hot items in your hand once a month. Listen to me. Use the promo code Ike Live. Get 30% off your first Elite box or 50% off your first Pro box. That's unbelievable. Also brought to you by Tin Cup Whiskey. God, I love whiskey. This is American-style whiskey cut with Rocky Mountain water. It's got a classic finish to it. I personally love the rye. It's got a little bit of a bold, spicy finish. You're going to love this stuff. Straight from the Rockies to your glass. Also brought to you by TH Marine, the maker of great marine products, from everything from a John boat to a Biggie Smalls yacht. That's TH Marine. Go to thmarine.com, use the promo code Ike Live, and get $10 off a $50 order or more. Unbelievable. Brought to you by Flambeau, the makers of the best tackle storage systems in the world, including the brand new Crank Bank and Blade Crate. Of course, every single Flambeau tackle storage system has Z-Rust incorporated to help keep your hooks rust-free. Go to flambeauoutdoors.com, use the promo code Ike Live, and get 20% off your entire order. That's unbelievable. Brought to you by Founders Beer. God, I love Founders. I'm such a beer guy, and I like all styles of beer. Founders makes them. I want you to go to foundersbrewing.com, or even better yet, download the Founders app. And by doing that, you can find out what dealer or bar has Founders right near you. Also, they're going to keep you ahead of the curve on brand new beer releases. That's foundersbrewing.com. This show's brought to you by Liquid Mayhem. Scent matters. Listen to me. If you want to catch more fish, if you want to catch bigger fish, try some Liquid Mayhem, put it on your favorite lure, and you're going to get bit. Go to liquidmayhem.com, use the promo code Ike Live. You ready for this? For 25% off your order of the best scent on the market, Liquid Mayhem. Also brought to you by Heshy Socks. That's right, Heshy Socks. Who doesn't love a good, comfortable, well-fitting sock? And guess what? The Ike Live crew had a hand in this, and we've got specially designed Ike-style socks just for you. Cushioned foot and toe, stay-up technology, and they've got a technology built in there where they won't stink. This is unbelievable, okay? Great designs, under $10, with the code Ike Live at heshywear.com. Also, they have Ike Foundation design socks. All proceeds go to the Ike Foundation. Brought to you by Torqeedo Motors, the leader in electric motor drives. If you're one of the guys like me, you have a tiny boat, you have a John boat, you live on an electric-only lake, get a Torqeedo if you want to be the fastest, most efficient boat on the water. Go to torqeedo.com. And last but not least, the Ike Live show is brought to you by Hobie Kayaks. Hobie is the Cadillac of kayaks, and kayak fishing is changing the world. Easy access, easy to get into. I want you to go to Hobie.com to check out their large array of kayak products, including the one that I use, the Hobie 360. Listen to me. Prepare yourself. Get your popcorn. Get your Founder's Beer and Tin Cup Whiskey. Get ready for a brand new Ike Live show coming up live right now. Come on, let's watch. Hey, everybody. Welcome to folks at home, how you doing tonight? Welcome to a brand new Ike Live show here on a glorious Sunday. And we've got a great show for you tonight.
She definitely did that on purpose.
She probably did that on purpose. Quincy the dog is with us tonight. Hi, Quince. I know a wire is going to get pulled here any second. Go get mommy. Go get mommy. There you go. That's exactly how I wanted to start the show, with a barking dog. This is great. Hi, Stella. Can you take the dog? Can you take the dog? All right, listen to me. I already know this is going to be a special show. Come over here. Come in here and sit. Not you, Quince. I want Stella to come in here real quick. Come here. Oh, God. The dog's got the Heshy socks now. All right, come in here. That's all right. We can talk about the Heshy socks. We got a surprise guest that came in impromptu real quick here. Mrs. Stella with us. Stella, how you doing? I noticed you have a jersey on. What is this jersey? Real quick. Say it into the mic. What is this jersey?
It's for lacrosse.
This is your lacrosse jersey.
Oh,
and
wow.
Today was a special day. What was today?
Today was my first game.
Wow.
I got to watch you for you had two. You had back-to-back games, and I thought you did excellent. I thought for your first game, you had good hustle. You worked hard, and I just wanted to say congratulations and good job.
Thank you.
Okay, can you go find my Heshy socks and bring them back if you can? If not, just leave the dog outside. Listen to me, guys. We got a great show for you tonight. We've got the one and only Trip Weldon joining us here in just a little bit. And if you follow competitive bass fishing, you know Trip. He's probably more famous than any of the anglers over the years, and was definitely, he was the reason that I kind of came up through the ranks. He was there the entire time. Real special guy, friend of ours, friend of the show's. Cannot wait to get Trip on a little later. Want to introduce the room. Sitting to my left in studio, we've got the one and only Riz, a.k.a. Rizzo, a.k.a. Rich, with us tonight. How you doing tonight, Rich?
Doing great, Mike. Good to be back in studio. It's going to be a fun show. I can't wait to talk to Trip. I like nerding out on bass fishing history, and this guy has seen literally all of it.
A lot of it.
So it's going to be fun to interact with a guy like that.
It's going to be great. I can't wait. Joining us via the Zoom machine, we've got the co-host of the show, the crust of the show, the one and only Pete Glusick. Pete, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I saw Riz. This is the second time. First time I saw him just a few hours ago on the Susquehanna River.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Doing a little fishing out there.
Yeah. It was cool. I had Shelly and Jake and one of Jake's buddies, Tanner, out, and they made their first casts of the year. And
Nice.
It's a nice day, man. We just tooled around, enjoyed Chesapeake. We didn't really catch much, but we had fun getting out on a nice day.
Well, the weather's impeccable here in the Northeast. If you're watching, finally spring has arrived in the Northeast, and 60-degree day today. Pete, looks like 60s this whole week. I'm expecting big things in the fishing world here in the Northeast.
It's going to unload, right, man? These fish have been dying to get up, and this is going to be the week for us. You know,
I think you're
anybody
right.
in our latitude, they're going to crash.
I think you're right. I think it's going to happen. And last but not least, of course, producing the show tonight, pushing buttons, making plays, the one and only Brian Carpenter. Brian, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Did you say Pete looks 60?
Yeah, no, I didn't say he looks. I say he looks sexy.
Oh.
No, I didn't say 60. I said sexy.
Yeah, this is the week.
This is the week, right?
Yeah, it's going down.
Yeah.
It's going down.
It should go down.
Rich is ready to fire himself from all his jobs.
I know. I am too. I'd like to go fishing every day this week. You heard the super long intro about the sponsors, but I did want to hit you with a couple updates. Mystery Tackle Box is the presenting sponsor of this show. And, man, we have been rocking that Elite Box the last couple shows. We're going to open a new one tonight again. Dude, this is the deal. I know you've heard us talk about it, but if you're not a subscriber, go over to mysterytacklebox.com. Use the promo code IkeLive. you're going to get 50% off, half off your first box. That's big. Heshy socks. You saw the dog Quincy run off with them.
That is great.
They're awesome. Listen, they're awesome socks, and they're lucky socks. Ask Justin Kimball, JK of Bash University. He's winning everything he touches. I give that success not to BU or Pete. I give it to the socks. I think it's the socks.
Heshy socks.
Heshy socks cause him to catch all those fish. Also, we have the Ike Foundation socks over there, and if you purchase the Ike Foundation socks, that donation, you'll get the socks, but the money will go right to the Ike Foundation to help get kids fishing. Go to heshyware.com. Very, very important. Flambeau, you heard us talk about Flambeau. Dude, they've got these new 2 storage systems. I know all you guys are already using Flambeau boxes, but I want you to check these out. We've got the Blade Crate, designed especially for spinner baits, buzz baits, really cool box, and also the Crank Bank. It's a new way to store treble-hooked lures, jerk baits, topwaters, crank baits. Great time of the year to add that to your tackle storage arsenal. Also, Liquid Mayhem. Scent. We always talk about scent's important. But this time of the year, I'm telling you, when that water's still cold, right? It's warming, but it's cold. Try scent. It makes a big difference. Go to liquidmayhem.com. Use promo code IkeLive. You get some great scent over there. Last but not least, Pete, we're drinking some good stuff over here tonight. I don't know if you knew that. We're drinking Founders. We got the Moon Rambler All Day IPA over here.
We got, go ahead.
And we're drinking Tin Cup. And Brian the Carpenter, what do you got? You want to talk about that a little later? A little later in the show?
Yeah,
Make a little surprise announcement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, so cheers to everybody drinking with us tonight.
On a dang Sunday.
On a dang Sunday. This is going to be a good one, Pete. When you talk about people that are important in the history, right, of a sport, right, you tend to go right to the anglers, right? You think about great anglers that have been involved over the last 30, 40 years. And it's easy to forget about this guy, but we've known him forever. And to me, he's a part of the history of the tournament side of bass fishing. And we got Trip Weldon with us tonight, Pete. I can't wait to talk to him. It's going to be great.
I can't either. It is he's such a powerful force. He's been there for so long.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those jobs. It's a thankless job. It can really be thankless. Every decision you make, you've got half the guys are going to argue with you.
Yeah.
Half the guys are going to agree with you.
Right.
And, it's just such a difficult spot. But Trip has always been steady. He has always seemed to me to try to achieve excellence.
Yeah.
And try to do the very best that he could in creating a playing field that we could all survive in and compete in.
Yeah.
And I've always appreciated that from him. So, and he's been there every single tournament, every single time. I can't imagine, the things he's heard and seen and knows about this sport. I'm looking forward to, diving into his memory bank a little bit.
I cannot wait to get him on the phone. And I'll say this right now, and I don't want to make any of the other tournament directors I work with mad. I've worked with some great tournament directors on a lot of circuits, FLW, MLF. But in my opinion, Trip is the best tournament director ever in the history of the world. And we're going to get to talk to this guy. Cannot wait to get him on just a little bit later, just a couple minutes away here. I do want to do a little catch-up. Brian, some big things have happened in the last couple of weeks since our last show.
Big things?
Big things. Which, by the way, let me start with that one. Last show, Pete, we had David Dudley on, and what a nice performance from David over at the MLF championship over there.
Sure.
Great performance. I mean, he talked about it. He talked about trying to be wide open, and I got to watch him live. I think he's one of the best natural fishermen out there. You'd have to put, Polinick and Swindle and Van Dam. I mean, there's so many guys on that list, but I would put him on that list. He fished very fluid and smooth. And then a week later, Bri, he went on to MC the first ever LMFAO Party Rock.
That's right. Yep.
The Party Rock League on the lake that he competed on Lake Eufaula. And I want to say, I thought he did great. I thought his conversation and his outlook on stuff
Yeah.
with Luke having,
Yeah.
two different viewpoints, I thought they did great. I thought
they
it was
did.
awesome.
Yeah, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah.
I really did.
Great energy he brings to it. It's a different style that him and Luke kind of have, and it's refreshing.
Yeah,
I liked it.
It was really good.
I liked it.
David's insight was cool. I mean, when he starts talking about adjustments and fish movements and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you've got a killer out there in David Dudley that has won giant tournaments. So it brings tremendous credibility when he starts talking about that stuff. I thought so too. I thought you did great.
Yeah, so I'd like to know, I want to hear everybody's opinion. Pete, Riz, and Brian, I want to hear all you guys' opinion on, we all watched it on and off, that first event. How do you think it went? Brian, start with you. How do you think it went?
Better than expected.
Yeah.
Better than expected.
First tryout. Think of our first Ike Live podcast. It was a disaster. It was a big heaping mound of elephant shit just stacked upon each other.
It was a disaster 27 minutes ago.
Right.
Right, Rich?
Right.
Pretty close. Yep.
It was a complete disaster. Black screens everywhere.
Right. And here we are. Right.
So I expected them to have the technical problems, and they had them.
Had a few.
They did. But the announcing was far better than I thought they would do a good job and be interesting.
Yeah.
But they were really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
How do you think the competitors did, Pete? And I want to throw this one to you. When I looked at that body of anglers, right? I looked at 100 anglers, give or take. I don't remember exactly what it was. The guys in the top for sure were catching Lake Eufaula style weights for that time of the year, right? The top 20%. But to me, it looked like it really tailed off, And again, listen to me. I'm not an expert. I've had bad tournaments at Lake Eufaula too. I don't always catch them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, do you think those 100 professionals, in quotes for Becky, caught them the way that other professional leagues would have caught them?
Man, that's a tough question.
Come on, just because you're sponsored by Cashin, you could answer this honestly, Pete. It doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah, I mean, here's. I don't know if I can even answer that.
Did I get you flustered?
Well, I didn't realize you were going to go there, and now that I'm considering what you just said.
I mean, here's the thing. I believe a lot of people are thinking this, right? I said it. But I think a lot of people are in their mind are saying, did these guys are these guys the caliber? Did they catch them like other professional leagues would have caught them in that particular league? It's just a question.
What I'm curious as to is how many of these guys in this league, because like a lot of I noticed kind of like a trend, like a lot of guys caught a big bag one of the days or like one or two of the days. So like I'm wondering how many of these anglers on this tour they're not used to the 3-day format, or did they fish 3, right? Or did they go 4?
I think they fished
3 days.
3 days, right? But still,
that's fished all 3 days.
That's different than your 1-day event that a lot of anglers are used to. So what I'll be interested to see is in the second, the third, the fourth event, after these guys have time to kind of adjust to fishing multi-day events. Yeah, see how the weights kind of start to stack up there. Yeah. That's just looking at it from a perspective of like myself. If I went into a 2 or 3 day event, it's something new for me. I don't know how to manage fish. It's that's the other side of the coin with that because there's definitely big bags caught.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a learning curve there, Pete, and some of those guys I think have to get an event or two under their belt, and you'll see some momentum
for sure. Yep.
I got a comment. What I did notice is some of the guys that were live seemed to be on camera for the first time, so they were kind of
another good point. Yeah.
wrestling with that. Yeah. I noticed that. John Sokup, I interviewed him and I watched him fish, and he would have been tough to contend with by anybody in that tournament.
I think anywhere in any of the leagues. I'd agree.
To beat him, especially this, because I didn't know this, but his advanced forward-facing sonar capabilities were well beyond what I thought they were. And this came from he's been fishing on the professional crappie tour for a while.
Right.
And
so
the
he's dialed
crappie-
in. Yeah.
The crappie world is
Yeah.
ahead of us.
Right.
They've been ahead of us for a couple of years
Yeah.
using this technology.
Yeah.
And how he describes how he fans the fish, follows them, tracks them, get the glimpses that he sees, understands the movements that these fish are, how they're leaving the brush. How we were talking about, you got to go back to Bashu.tv and listen to this interview, guys, if you haven't. But he talks about how the fish leave piles and how, how you have to fish around them in some instances. Other instances, you got to dive into them. And when, by looking at that sonar, how he determines what to do. So that being said, he would have been tough to contend with,
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And it's, I think, again, I think the top 20% to me were right there with any of the other leagues, and I think there was a step down.
Yeah,
well, you can see that anywhere, though. I mean, you look at everything's been diluted. The FLW got diluted, and Bass got diluted. Right. Everything got kind of fractured and scattered. So,
when was the first time you guys were on camera fishing? Because that really struck a point, Pete, when you said that a lot of these guys had never had a camera on the boat with them filming before. It's like, what does that do to your psyche? For a guy that's
pressure.
never.
It adds pressure. That's what it does when you do it for the first time. It's like it takes a while until you get to ignore that the camera's there.
Yeah.
And that's the way I remember it. I remember it just, if the fish weren't biting, oh my God, you wanted that camera to go away.
The camera was bad luck. It's turning the fish off.
I think it still is. I mean, I feel that way with a GoPro. It's like if they're not biting, I'm ready to throw that thing in the lake.
The camera's bad luck as the camera's recording us right now. This is all bad. Speaking of good luck, let me remind everybody: if you're watching tonight over on Facebook, listen to me. We have this contest. We do it every week. Like and share the feed. That's all you have to do. Brian the Carpenter. Like and share the feed. If you do that, you're entered into a chance to win the world-famous Ike Live gift bag. This thing's an honest-to-goodness 21 pounds of Ike Live sponsor products. Like and share the feed over on Facebook. You're going to be entered in a chance to win this. Also, Riz, we want to hear from people, right?
Yeah.
We want their questions, comments. You're going to take them all night, IMs and stuff?
That's right.
Okay.
People say they want more Quincy.
They want more Quincy. Bring Quincy back with my socks, with my Heshy socks.
And, hey, for the guys on the IM board, all night long you're going to see the BTL crew instead of Ike Live on the message board.
Oh, okay. A little name change.
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's a little nod to our homie, Mark Jeffries.
Yeah.
Actually, we can't figure out how to fix it, make it Ike Live, so we're just going to say that's a
it is a nod to Mark Jeffries. And Pete, I don't know if a lot of people heard, Mark Jeffries was involved in an accident. He was hospitalized. He had head injury. He's doing better. Becky talked to him early in the week.
Really?
He's back home. He's recovering.
Fantastic.
So we're thinking about Mark Jeffries.
Yes.
We love you, Mark. Get better soon.
Yeah,
Definitely, dude, think about that, though, right? Like, life is so short. When you hear about stuff like that, dude, I know we're going to talk to Tripp later. I think he's got a new outlook on life. And when you see these things and hear about these things, think about it, man. Life is short, dude. Take every day to its fullest.
right. Yep.
Also want to catch up with a couple other things. We've got official dates now. Yeah, Brian, what do you got?
I wanted to comment about the professional crappie league.
Oh, yeah.
What do they do? Just bring them all in and eat them? How's that work?
I don't know. Pete, do you
be at
know?
the
I
after
don't
party.
know if they – I believe they do keep them. I don't know if they release them, but I think it's interesting because I think it's as competitive and as, difficult as a top-level bass tournament. I really do.
Hell out of here.
Abso-freaking-lutely. I was going to say a bad word. Absolutely. And I know a couple of the guys. I know a couple of the crappie guys. And I'm telling you, dude, they are dialed. Now, there's different rules. These guys can use, it's like a lot of rods. They can put spider rigs out. There's different rules.
Is it one biggest fish or best five?
No, I think it's numbers. It's 5 or 10. Of your heaviest total weight. Yeah. So they're after big crappie, but the forward-facing sonar has changed that because I can tell you, in my limited time of using it, I started using my Lowrance Active Target back in November. I saw it for the first time in October, got mine in November. Dude, it shows crappie like they light up.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I see a bass on it out there swimming, I can see the bass. I'm like, oh yeah, look at it. It looks like a bass. You see, but when those crappie get together in a pack, dude, it's like flashlight bulbs. Like ding, 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 ding. They're like, kill me, come and eat me. I mean, it's that easy with crappie. It's a special technology with crappie. But I do have a story. I want to relay the story of what happened, and I just want to tell you how unbelievable this technology is, and I still got to wrap my hands around it. But I went to a lake. I'm not going to say the name of the lake because it'll have 50 boats on it tomorrow. But a lake that Riz and I fished last year about this time, and we had a really good jerkbait day there.
Ooh.
And I went there, Pete, and I said I want to go there because its lake had depth, and I wanted to catch those jerkbait fish and watch them, you know. And so I got there and I caught a bunch watching the jerkbait, watching these fish rise up and eat it. I felt like these guys that are winning tournaments, you know. I'm like, oh, I get it now, you know.
Yeah.
And while I'm doing that, I was like doing something at the bottom of the boat. I can't remember. I was like retying something, and I see this way out ahead of the boat, 50 feet ahead of the boat, 40, 50 feet ahead of the boat. I see this wake on the surface. And my first thought, I was like, oh, my God, that's like a carp, like a big – you see a big carp wake past. I'm like, oh, it was a carp. And then I was like, wait a minute. I got forward-facing sonar. So I jumped up, and I just turned my head of that trolling motor out there in that direction. And I saw this giant ball of gizzard shad.
Oh.
And gizzard shad are pretty awesome on live target too, or active target too, because they pop as well. They pop, and they're really fast. They're crazy how fast they move, the school of gizzard shad. Huh. And I looked at them like, holy shit, that's a school of gizzard shad. They're not tight. They were looser, but they were all moving in unison. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. And I like looked on my deck, and I had this giant swim bait
9-inch
tied on, a 9-inch swim bait tied on, glide bait. And I'm like, God, yeah. And I threw it out there, and I threw it like 60 feet. And yeah. And I started reeling it. And Pete, I swear to you, this is exactly how it happened. And I'm watching, I can see it. Zoom, 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 zoom. And as it got close to that school of gizzard shad, dude, they parted like the Red Sea. I scared them with the glide bait. The glide bait is supposed to imitate the gizzard shad.
The glide bait.
They parted like literally like right in the middle, right? Like half went left and half went right. And I watched them go off the screen. And when that happened, I stopped the bait. And I'm like, what the? And I watched this glide bait sink. It's sort of like a slow sink. And I watched it on my active target sink. And I'm like, oh, my God, that's crazy. And I'm like, because I was just thinking. I didn't mean to stop it. I was just thinking. And I started reeling it again. And I got like 3 cranks on it and a fish from the bottom just lightning bolted toward the glide bait. And on my very next turn, I caught it. And it was a 5-pounder.
Come on.
I watched the entire thing happen, go down on my active target. Dude, it was the craziest. So it was the first bass I ever caught on a 9-inch glide bait. It was a 5-pounder, and I watched it eat.
What? How about that?
The craziest thing is he wasn't there. He was not there. He must have been laying on the bottom, or he bolted into the screen. I don't know, but he wasn't there. Then all of a sudden he was, and I caught him.
So from now on,
it was
when
crazy.
You're reeling something through, and you start hitting the gizzards, kill it.
Maybe you should kill it. Maybe you should stop it. I'm just saying. And we've heard that, Pete, right? We've heard that this technology is good not just for seeing them, but to learn how to reel your bait, right?
Oh, yeah.
To learn how to move your bait. It gives you eyes that we never had, right?
Exactly. I mean, the interviews are crazy that I've been talking to these guys about, and it's like you can throw a spinnerbait out there and you can see that they're not reacting to it or they're running from it, like you said.
Yeah.
Or, and then if you're using a jerkbait, a certain cadence draws them. Other methods don't, and you definitely learn that. I wonder about that fish that you had, like you said, the gizzard shad split. Do you think he came into the area on that big glide and forced them to split, or do you think the glide scoop those fish apart.
I told Brian this. I told this to Brian when I talked to him about it. I thought it was the glide bait. To me, it looked like it was the glide bait. But that's a great point, Pete, right? Maybe he slid in and parted them and then just sort of laid at the bottom looking up at this thing. You know, that's a possibility too. I don't know. You know, but it was amazing, and again, you know,
fun stuff,
and what a technology, and you have to learn it. I'm still, you know, I'm excited to keep putting time in on it. You know, I can't it's almost like every time I go out, I can't wait to try it in a new situation. You know,
absolutely. The you know, some of the tips that I've gotten on it were, you know, you get out and you identify a brush pile. And you pull down, and you just repeatedly make your casts and presentations, even though there might not be any fish in it. You learn, you learn how to make your bait, you know, do what you want it to do, how to get it close to the habitat, and you know how to keep it up and out of the cover, and you know what everything looks like. You know, it requires locking your rod locker, Riz. You got to put those rods away, man.
Yeah.
That might not happen. That might not happen.
It's so hard to do.
It's so hard to do.
Gotta leave them at home.
I know.
That's the move.
Be like, oh,
you're better off leaving them. Let me remind everybody also, if you're watching, we want to hear from you. Hit up Riz on the IM if you're watching IkeLive.com. If you're watching over on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at IkeLive Show, we're going to monitor those as well, and Brian's going to check in on them too. I want to. One other thing I want to say, which is really cool. I fished a tournament last week, a local event on Assunpink, Five Alive. Shout out to Five Alive Bassmasters. Always putting on great events. I didn't do very well. I only caught a few. I was with Uncle Don. Brian, I did pretty good. He caught 3. But it was what happened before that I want to talk about. It was unbelievable. So me and Uncle Don, it was on Assunpink. We're driving up north, 295 north to 195. You get off, and you start heading east toward the shore. And right as we got off the Assunpink exit, Pete, we look up in the sky and we see this weird, just weird cloud ball shooting across the sky. And I'm looking at Uncle Don, and I'm like, man, I'm like rolling the window down, taking pictures, videos, like, and it's just the steady movement with this big cloud. All of a sudden, the cloud stopped, and the whatever was in front of it just went pew, and it was gone. And I'm like, Uncle Don, we just saw a UFO. I was 100% certain I saw a UFO.
How'd that psych you out for the tournament?
Dude, that's probably why I didn't catch him. I don't know.
You're thinking about getting abducted.
I was thinking about getting abducted or anally probed. I don't know.
All these fish I've abducted, now they're coming for me.
I know.
Payback.
I know. But,
thank God.
But we did.
Get 'em.
We did find out later. So I posted the picture and then did a little research, Pete, and we found out we got to see a rocket launch, which was really cool. It was a SpaceX rocket launch. That dude, bazillionaire, putting shit up in space that probably doesn't need to be up there or whatever. So we got to see that. That was kind of cool.
Tesla?
Yeah.
I dig what he does.
Yeah, it was cool.
So
I heard he was putting some satellites up.
Satellites, of course.
Yeah, but seriously, you weren't too shook about it?
About the rocket ship?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, I know. I'm not so. No, when I thought it was a UFO or a meteor, I was stoked about it. When I found out it was
let's go back to let's go back to when you saw it.
Yeah.
And then the time after that.
Oh yeah.
Because I missed it.
Yeah,
I didn't see it. I was running behind. I was running behind everybody.
I saw it, and then when I got to the ramp, a lot of the anglers that were there early had saw it, and I was like, "Cool, we're not crazy. We saw something, you know, whatever it was." Yeah, it was cool.
How'd you feel that you missed it, Bri? Because I've had a similar experience, but I missed it.
Yeah, I was bummed that I missed it, right?
Yeah.
But I remember during the day, and I ran into a few people out there, right? And they're like, "Yo, did you hear about the UFO this morning?" You know, like, like 2 or 3, 4 guys that I passed by all said that, and I'm like, "Wow, that's crazy, right?" And then partway through the day, I'm like, "That's really crazy. Why is everybody still fishing?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like freaking aliens, dude. Why are we fishing?
Yeah.
And nobody was too stressed out about it. It was like, "Yo, did you see the UFO this morning?" I'm like, No, yeah,
Mad
saw
that
it.
you missed it, right?
Mike got a picture. How many are you catching? It was just like the conversation.
That was it.
Yeah, and that was it. And then we were worried about the stupid 2-pound fish.
Yeah.
You guys remember in 2000, it was either 11 or 12 when there was like an earthquake in this area,
Yeah.
like big enough for people to actually feel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was driving down the shore when that happened, and apparently if you're going over 50 miles an hour in a car, you couldn't feel it. I was so mad. that people are calling me. They're like, dude, did you feel that earthquake? Like, my living room table was shaking. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And everybody I missed it.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah.
of earthquakes,
Probably the only one.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
that-
earthquakes,
that was cool.
We have earthquakes going on in Japan right now. Thinking about everybody in Japan dealing with the
I didn't
earthquakes.
know that.
Also have a volcano that erupted in Iceland, Pete. I don't know if you knew that.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I was not dialed in on that. But I do want to ask you a big question.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
We're talking about UFOs. Is there life on other planets?
I'm going to have to say yes. I'm going to have to say there's life out there somewhere other than here. There has to
Without hesitation.
be. Without hesitation. It has to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
That's what Tesla's going to send up there and meet
Yeah.
those people.
Probably right. A meet and greet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have
there's no
to-
COVID in
There's
space, Pete.
interbreeding.
So COVID.
There's no COVID in space. We're good, Pete. Just shut up
I don't
there.
know, man. There's stuff growing on the space station up there on the outside. I don't know
Really?
what that is.
Huh. I wonder what that is.
Probably milfoil.
It's Millville. Come put it.
Doesn't grow where I want it to grow.
Yeah, come put it in Lake X. We need something out here. This place is pretty
By the
pretty
way,
sparse lately.
We got Wawa Hoagie Lady on the message board, and she's apparently a huge big bait fanatic.
Yes.
So she's all in on the.
I
on
know
the big
she's
baits,
in.
on the big baits and the forward.
I think she knows.
classics.
She
Yeah.
probably knows what big bait I was throwing too. I'm pretty sure
Oh, yeah.
she does know. I want to get into the show. And anything else to catch up on, Bri, Pete? You got it?
I'm
You got
good.
anything? Riz, you got anything?
No.
I want to get into the meat of this show. I'm almost. Do we take a break, Bri? Or do we just get right in? I'm
Yeah,
almost like. What do you want to do?
I was going to hit the commercial break and
All right.
bring Trip
All
in.
right, that's a good idea. All right, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen. Hang in there because that was all junk, what just happened right there. We were just doing a little catch up. The meat of the show, the thrust of the show is coming up. I cannot wait. Hang in there. Trip Weldon coming on Ike Live when we come back. Hang in there. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
Be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation, ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us. We're proud of it.
You work hard to catch your fish. TH Marine has two products to ensure your fish survive. The Oxygenator injects 100% pure oxygen into your live well. That increases fish survival by 35%. For the perfect combo, add G-Juice Live Well treatment. It calms fish, stops bleeding, removes ammonia, and replaces slime coat. Get an Oxygenator and G-Juice and keep your fish alive.
At Founders Brewing, we asked ourselves, what if we brewed a beer perfect for any occasion? A beer that makes a weekday feel more like the weekend. And the weekend feel more like an adventure. What if we brewed a beer that brought us together and allowed us to be ourselves? A beer that is just as much of a companion as it is a reward at the end of the journey. What if we explored the unknown together and found a new way to celebrate taste and flavor and life's simple pleasures? And what if we brewed a beer that could go where you go without slowing you down? Founders All Day IPA, low ABV and full flavor that goes where you go. Perfect for any occasion.
We're excited to announce our brand new partnership with an amazing company, Heshy Socks. That's spelt Heshi Socks. Go to heshysocks.com to check out my brand new Mike Iaconelli collection. That's right, I have my own custom socks in tournament colors. I promise you, you will never, I mean never, find a more comfortable sock. The great news, all my socks are under $10 a pair when you use our promo code IKE20. Go to heshysocks.com, use the promo code IKE20 to get the most comfortable socks in the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new Ike Live show. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I know we are. Got a special show for you tonight. Joining us in a couple minutes, we've got the one and only Trip Weldon joining us. I cannot wait to get Trip on the phone and talk to him and catch up with Trip. Let me remind you, if you're watching over on Facebook, Riz, we're doing the like and share contest. All you have to do is like and share the Facebook feed, and you're going to be entered into a chance to win the world-famous Ike Live gift bag loaded with sponsor products. If you're watching over on the other social channels, it's at Ike Live Show, and we're going to be monitoring those as well. But if you're watching on IkeLive.com, Riz, we want their comments. We want their questions, right? Send them through.
Yep, we want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. Very, very important part of the show. Before we get started, as we do every week, we want to thank our military, men and women, active and veterans. Thank you guys for what you do. It's a crazy world right now. It's so crazy. Policemen, firemen, EMT, doctors, nurses, thank you guys for what you do. Strange, strange world. I want to get started, Brian. This is one of these shows where, you know, sometimes you get a guest on and you're like, keep him in the waiting room for a while. But this is one where
mellow out
I don't even want to. I don't care about anything else that's going on right now. You know what I mean? It's
I hear you.
It's that kind of show.
I was just messaging with somebody who's coming on later, and a little surprise. And I don't know if I've ever even really had a conversation with Tripp, but somehow I feel like I really know him.
Right.
And I'm so excited to have him on or just to be a part of this, to be a spectator to this.
Yeah.
So.
And that happens a lot. I've seen that happen in other walks of life. You feel like you know somebody even you don't. But I really do know this guy, and I am so excited to finally get him on the Ike Live show. I know we've talked about this. The stars and the moon have not aligned correctly all those years. Finally, they have. And joining us live, the one and only, the world's best ever tournament director, Trip Weldon, joins us live.
Trip.
Woo! Trip.
Mike Iaconelli.
How you doing, Trip?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I'm very good. It's so good to see you. It's so good to hear your voice. First things first, how you feeling? How you doing? Fill us in.
Well, I feel good. I appreciate you asking. I appreciate all the thoughts and prayers sent our way, but I feel good. For those that don't know, I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't have it anymore. I did 6 chemo treatments. I have a full body scan the end of the month, and I'll get my results 1st of April. But the doctor's saying good things, and I'm clinging to what he's saying, man. Back fishing, I told Pete I fished a tournament right here on Lake Jordan yesterday and getting my stamina back. So I feel good.
That's awesome. It's awesome to hear. In fact, I was with we had a field lacrosse game for Estella today. It was her first game, and Uncle Don was there. And Uncle Don wanted me to tell you hello and glad you're doing well. and Uncle Don's thinking about you more than you know. So.
Well, tell him I appreciate that, and miss seeing all you guys, miss seeing him, and I know he went through the same thing, and I appreciate your text to me, reaching out to me, Mike, back when I was diagnosed.
Yeah, for sure. I got to ask you this because I know I've had this conversation, with my uncle. We've had this conversation with Aaron. We've had Aaron on about a couple months ago, yep. Brian.
Right.
And just in the beginning of the show, we talked about Mark Jeffries had an accident last week, a near-death accident last week. What's this? How this experience? I know it's life-changing. Tell me about it, Trip. How?
It is. I mean, when you hear the C word, it is definitely life-changing. Yeah. And I've been very fortunate, though. You hear all the horror stories about chemo, and different people react different ways.
Yeah.
I had good days and bad days, but I never threw up. I never had any of the nausea and the sickness type stuff that people had. I tried to stay ahead of it with nausea medicine if I felt like something was coming on. But, my first treatment was pretty rough because I think as much mentally as it is physically, you come to a stop sign in life and go a totally different direction. And we kind of experienced that with Ben, our youngest son. He's a type 1 diabetic. He found out 3 days before he graduated high school. And so we've been through, the diabetic deal with him, but my other treatments weren't too bad. It would hit me 7 to 10 days after my treatments. Really lost a lot of stamina, but I've tried to exercise and lift weights and build up my stamina. I fished a tournament yesterday. By the end of the day, man, I'm totally gassed. But I fished the first one I fished. I quit at 12 o'clock. I had Ben take me in at 12 o'clock. So I lasted all day the last couple of tournaments I fished. So
that's awesome.
But yes, it is a life-changing experience. It makes you really count your blessings and learn to live each day, one day at a time, and make the best of life.
So true. So important. We've talked about that a lot on the show, and it's so important to do that. I want to jump right to the second thing, which is congratulations on your retirement, Trip. I don't think I got a chance to say that to you. You had a amazing career with bass. In my opinion, you've helped advance the sport. But I know, in talking with you, my few last years of bass, I kind of knew it was coming. How did you know it was the right time for retirement? And I asked you this because these are some of the things I'm struggling with right now. I'm at a crossroads in my career. So, did you know? Did you know this was time? Did you have this planned? How did the retirement happen?
Well, I had planned to retire this year. I didn't know when, and of course the Classic was scheduled in the spring, and then COVID changed all of that. But then back up to my whole cancer deal, and I turned 65 in January, and the first elite was in February, and I knew I wouldn't be able to travel just because of my stamina and just my health in general.
Yeah.
So the timing was right. I was going through all the Medicare stuff, and so I knew it was the right time. I prayed about it. We prayed about it, and we just knew the timing was right. But my plan the last 3 or 4 years was to retire sometime this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Well, it's funny because I've heard you speak in a few other articles about this, but I do want to talk about it tonight. It's interesting how life takes you places, and we've had a lot of amazing guests on the show, from fishermen to athletes to celebrities, who talk about how they ended up where they're at. I want you to go back, Trip, and a lot of our viewers and listeners don't know the story, but how did you end up as the tournament director for bass? Because it's kind of crazy, right? It's like one of those things where it's like, I think we might have some viewers saying, you know, were you in 8th grade aspiring to be the best tournament director ever in the world, or is it something that happened? Phil, give us that story.
Well, I'll try to make it brief. My story with Bass, I actually grew up 2 blocks from the original Bass headquarters.
Wow.
In Capitol Heights in Montgomery, Alabama.
Wow.
And I grew up fishing just like you guys. Any kind of fishing I could do, brim fishing, crappie fishing. It didn't matter. As long as I was fishing, I was happy. And I got into a bass club in the late 70s. In 1981, Bass came to Montgomery for the Classic. It was the first indoor weigh-in. Stanley Mitchell won it. And I was a volunteer camera boat driver. And Dewey Kendrick was a volunteer tow vehicle driver. And that's where we first met.
Wow.
We were volunteers. The following year, it came back to Montgomery in 82. And then Dewey called me in 1990 to interview for his assistant tournament director, and the rest is history. In 2002, I was appointed tournament director at Bass when ESPN owned Bass. And it's one of those deals, Mike, where I say you have your runs in life, and I've had my run. I'm retired and enjoying life, but I'm still following. You know, I was on there today looking at Bass Track and looking at the leaderboard and all that good stuff. But I'm glad I wasn't there this week making decisions on the weather. And
I know.
That's a tough week.
I know. It's funny because I thought that same thing, and I follow it too. You know, I'm a fish head. I'll always be a fish head. But what I thought was interesting, and I read this somewhere, but I want to give everyone a reality check here. And Riz, how old are you again?
30.
Okay, Riz is 30. Trip, we've got a lot of younger folks watching and listening right now, and they're so used to, you know, it's so easy, right? You grab your phone, you get your tablet, and you're watching. You're seeing the update. You're seeing it live. Take me back, Trip, when you were a fan. I had read this somewhere that you used to call the hotline. This is pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-computer, all that stuff. What? You used to call the hotline to find out.
That's right, dinosaur. Yeah, dinosaur days. I called the 272-9530 was the number in Montgomery, and I would call the hotline every day of every tournament.
That's awesome.
And most of the times when you call it, it'd be busy. That was the only way you could get an update on the tournaments, unless you waited 30 days until Bassmaster Magazine came out. Then Bass Times came out, and it was a little more current, although it might be 2 or 3 weeks behind. But yes, I used to do that every day of every tournament.
Wow.
What were the updates?
Listen to Ann Lewis. You remember Ann Lewis?
I do. Yeah.
I would listen to her. She would do a recording every night of the tournament, an update. Yep.
No kidding. What would she run down the leaderboard and their weights and that?
She'd run down the leaderboard and give a quick highlight of the day. You know, Pete Glusick caught his fish today, fishing docks with a jig and so forth. But it was a quick 5-minute rundown. So, yep, I did that almost every day.
Wow. I don't remember that.
That is amazing. That is unbelievable.
That is
yeah. I mean, when you look at it nowadays and the technology, and it's, you know, like what we're seeing with forward facing sonar and all that. I mean, it's technology, man, is I don't know. It moves in warp speed too. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
One of my favorite things about like learning the history of the sport is seeing how deep the commitment was. It was to be a fan at the beginning, and like to be a student of the game at the beginning of the sport as it grew. Yeah. That is like it gives you a charge.
Oh yeah. Well, I can jump in and say I don't remember calling the hotline, but I remember like dying to watch the shows, right? And it wasn't instantaneous, right? There wasn't any of that. But I remember being a kid, and Pete, we've talked about this before. I remember being in grade school, and I could not wait to watch Bassmasters. You know, that theme song, like it energized me. It's like, and Trip, do you remember the one? I can't remember the era, but it was Larry from Nixon from Mega Bass. from the Megabucks tournament.
Megabucks tournament.
And
oh my God! Look at the size of that.
Dude, every time that fish
My
jumped,
God, what a bass!
yeah, every time that fish jumped, I'd get chills. I'd be like, oh,
he's got the
my
pistol grip rod.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
3.5 feet long.
Oh yeah, but
Those were fun times, man. Good
yeah,
times.
but it's great because you look at 30, 40 years ago and today, and I think anglers are just as passionate, right? Technology's changed, things have changed, but the anglers are still passionate, and that's awesome. You need that to help grow the sport.
Mike, I know you didn't probably call the hotline.
Yeah.
But I do remember you calling from the we had a payphone in our high school gymnasium.
Yeah.
And I remember you would call 1-800-BASS PRO because it was a
to order tackle?
just to call it.
Just to call.
Because it was an 800 number. And
That's right.
You could do that from the payphone.
I was probably ordering tackle from high school, which was pretty.
Or cranking them.
Yeah, or crank calling them, which is pretty bad.
Mike, do you remember at the trailer, like back before the information age, we used to have to wait for the printouts.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We were in the hunt for the classic, and you'd have to sit there for a half hour, whatever it took.
Nerve-wracking.
Those sheets, and you'd go up to the trailer, the Bass trailer, and they'd hand you out a sheet, let you know where you stood. That's how you did it back then.
Yeah.
And it was, crazy. You're right, Pete. And it took forever. And we had to you'd have 25, 30, 35 anglers waiting outside the trailer at classic time. And you're running copies on this copy machine. It's like, there's one copy. There's two copies. It took forever. And man, times have changed.
But I'm addicted to it, though. I gotta be honest. I watched the live. I cannot stop. I must hit refresh on Bass Tracks like 1,000 times during the tournament.
Yeah.
I gotta keep up with it. It's really
they've done a good Bass Track. They've done a good job with that this year too. It really looks good.
Yeah, it looks good. I want to ask this. I had this in my notes. Your job description is a tough one, right? Like a normal job, you work at, you're an IT guy, right? You can list off 10 things that you do. But the role of a tournament director is a difficult one, and there's not a lot of, it can go far left, it could go far right. There's a million things. How did you get good at it, Trip? That's what I want to know. I know you worked under Dewey. Talk about that. How did you get that confidence? How did you get the ability to be a world-class tournament director?
Well, I think being an angler certainly played a huge part in it. And Dewey was my mentor, obviously, but being a tournament fisherman and knowing what you guys go through, and just knowing how the game works, I think it made a huge difference. It is an odd occupation or whatever job description, as you would say. Odd is probably the wrong word. Different might be a more appropriate word, but I think just the experience. When I became assistant tournament director, I was still fishing. I was fishing red man tournaments, and a lot of team tournaments, and then in the late '80s. I still had the itch to be a professional angler and went part-time. And that's when Pete, I'm still mad at him. He beat me on that. But no, he had a great week. But I scratched that itch and knew that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I think we had a great team. We had good people at Bass. And you surround yourself with good people and do the best job you can. You work hard at it every day.
Yeah,
let me ask you.
That's incredible, Pete. I wanted to stop you for a second and say I remember that tournament because I was in that tournament too, so I remember it. But Pete, did you feel bad winning that tournament? I mean, because you're probably one of the nicest guys I know. I'm not just saying that because you're my friend, Pete, but you're nice. Did you feel bad about winning that tournament, Pete?
No. Man, I was desperate for my moment. I was like, I've been, I was just battling to get you know how it was. Like we're talking about the limited technology. You didn't get, you finished second place. You got like one sentence in Bassmaster magazine, maybe, you got to win that sucker to get, get the coverage, to get the sponsors and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Pete had a great week. I had a terrible day too. I stunk it up big time, but Pete was consistent and had a great week. And it was a good job, man.
Did you ever hear how I found those fish, Trip? I don't know if I've ever told you this story, and it might make you mad, or I don't know. No. We had how Kalijah Creek gets foggy, and it was real foggy on our practice day. I think our last one, and I launched and no GPS, none of that stuff. So I'm trying to get to this cove that I wanted to start my practice day, and I couldn't. So I'm idling and I'm losing shoreline. I'm kind of getting spun around. It's so thick you can't see the trolling motor, when you're idling. And all of a sudden I notice on my sonar just a little high spot comes up, and 2 fish were marked on what looked like a stump. That's where I won the tournament.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I didn't, as a matter of fact, I had to stay there to wait for the fog to lift so that I could get back there again.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember it was like 80 degrees in practice, and then we had a bad front come through.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the night after the first competition day. And I do remember day 2 was real windy and cold. And like I say, I didn't have a plan B. I had plan A, and that was it. Plan A worked on the first and third day, but I stunk it up on day 2.
I remember you were jerk baiting, I think, a Lucky Craft when those were just coming out. At least that's what I thought that I heard, that you were jerk baiting around the docks or something like that.
No, that was Everstart I won down there. I was actually skipping a jig under docks.
Docks and pontoons. Docks and pontoons. I remember.
Docks and pontoons. Yep.
I remember.
Yep.
Pete's favorite fog on the message board. Just throw that out there. I've actually got a really good story too. I want to just throw out there. And Uncle Don reminded me of it at the game tonight. And I don't know if you remember this, Trip, but I got to relay this story. So we have literally been working together my entire career, Trip, whether you know this or not. So I was lucky enough in 1993 to get drawn as a co-angler, as an amateur, in the BASS. I think they were top 100s or 150s back then?
Top 100s.
100s. In 93. The first one I got drawn for, I was a college student, and I did really poorly, but I had an amazing time. I drew Fritz, Cliff Kraft, Gary Klein, and one other guy my first year. I didn't do very good. The next year I put in for 2 more. I didn't get drawn for the one, but I got drawn for the exact same location again, which was Lake Norman in North Carolina.
Yep.
And I went on in that one to have some great draws as well. Guido Hibden, Cliff Kraft again, Chet Dalfit.
How was the first time you were with Kraft?
The first time I was with Kraft was he didn't care about hooks. I remember he had the worst. He had like saltwater trebles on his top water, and he didn't care. And I remember being a co-angler looking at him like, are you not going to change these hooks? I'm looking at these like silver anodized hooks, and I'm like, you're the professional. But the second year, I was having a good event. And by the third day, back then, Trip, you remember they were 4-day events. And by the third day, I was leading, had a very slim lead. And, I had drove there with my uncle. And so this is crazy. Like, this was a family affair. So it was me as a college student, my uncle, my grandfather. We were all in my uncle's van. And at the time, he drove these, like, panel vans almost. Like, he was a van guy, right?
Passenger van.
Yeah, passenger van.
Yeah.
In the 70s, he was a van guy. And at the end of the third day, he went up to you, Trip, and because you were working that one, and you didn't know Don from Adam, and Don asked you. He said, "Hey, you know, my nephew Mike's winning this, and you know, he's going to win the tournament, and you know, there's still a day left, you know. And he asked you, he said, "Would you guys give us the hitch for the boat when he wins?" and Don said, you just looked at him like, you know, like he had like 3 heads, like, do we give you the hitch? No, we don't give. And like, we've never towed a boat before, you know, so that whole 9. But he literally, he had enough confidence in me, Trip, that morning of the last day, he went to a U-Haul dealer and had a hitch installed on his van, and I ended up winning that tournament. So,
oh, cool.
That was
cool.
That,
I do.
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
Yes.
And I don't ever recall again someone asking me for a trailer.
That's how green we were back then.
Wow.
But man, what a history that we have, Trip.
That was a neat story.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I got to tell you, you know, this is a great moment for me to tell you something. I know we're far away. You're in Alabama, I'm in New Jersey. But I want to look in the camera, look you in the eye, and say that the years that I tournament fished, I cannot thank you enough for being a great tournament director all those years. You know, there were days where I disagreed with some of the decisions that you made, but I never disagreed with how hard you worked and your commitment to the sport and growing the sport. So I just wanted to say thank you. I don't think I ever told you that. Thank you very much, Trip.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, and I love all the anglers. I love you guys, and some decisions you make, you know, are tough decisions, and were we always perfect? No, absolutely not. And so, but I appreciate what you say, and I respect you guys immensely and what y'all do.
Yeah, well, we really, really do appreciate it. I want to go back. What were some of the tougher decisions you've had to make in your career? Because I know, like every tournament, there's a tough one, right? You got to make a judgment.
And how do you get good at that? Like,
yeah,
how do you get used to making those tough decisions?
It's so hard. I can't even wrap my hands around that pressure. You know, of that every day of every tournament. But are there ones that you look back on and you're like, oh my God, I was pulling my hair out in that one? Are there ones that stand out as being the toughest or some of the toughest decisions you ever had to make?
You know, I've shared this on other shows. The weather delays and canceled days and all that, I didn't lose too much sleep over it. You know, I tell anglers all the time, I'm not going to apologize trying to keep you safe.
Right.
Were there days where we probably could have fished? Probably so.
Yeah.
You know, there was the one at Amistad where we canceled a day and it was beautiful down there. 100 miles from us, it was blowing 18-wheelers off the road. So,
right.
You know, those are judgment calls. Disqualifications and that sort of deal. First of all, you never try not to ever let it be personal.
Right.
You know, it was tough to call KVD and tell him he was disqualified at Santee Cooper.
Yeah.
Same way with Hackney at Cayuga and Swindle at the Classic, because, you know, I love all those guys and respect them. And to a man, they took it like men. You know, it was not easy, but again, you don't make it personal. And so you try to stick by the rule book and do the best job you can and keep that respect for the anglers and hope they respect, you know, what we're trying to do as tournament officials.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, and I'll remember. You know, I've had a few moments too that were not my finest moments, Trip, and I have a little list of a few of them here that I like to bring up.
Little list.
2004 on Lake Wiley, second day of the tournament. You had to disqualify me, and again, you know, I look back on it, and I was in the wrong. I didn't have a good handle on exactly what the off limits was, and it was hard. And I remember, you know, it was semi early in my career, and you know, when you're young and you're full of fire and energy, and you know, you don't want to make mistakes, and You know, I remember people accusing me on that one of saying, "Oh, you did that on purpose."
I've heard that a lot.
Oh yeah, I remember. Like to this day, Bernie Schultz is sure that I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And I did not. It was honestly a misunderstanding. But it was tough, and I remember that. You know, there were a lot of those that we had over the years, Trip. And some of them were hard to swallow. But again, you know, especially now that I'm older and I'm a little more removed, it's got to be tough, Trip, to make those decisions. You know, it's got to be, because you're trying to do the right thing and you're trying to remove yourself. Have you ever second guessed a decision that you've made over the years?
I think you always you reflect back on what could I have done different. You know, what could we have done different? And I think the rule book evolves from those some of those moments. You know, when I first became tournament director, there were 3 penalties for rules violation. One was loss of catch for the day, loss of catch for the tournaments 2, and then a ban from bass was 3. That was it. Right. And then after the swindle deal at the Classic, you know, I said, we've got to change this. We've got to have something that's more appropriate for the penalty, and that's where the penalty box came up. Yeah. And, you know, and several of the other rules. So, but I think you look back at every decision and you go back. I'll go back to what you said about pulling your hair out. You have to have hair first, Mike, to pull it out. but you know, I had a lot of sleepless nights, you know, over decisions you make. And because, you know, it affects people's career, or if it affects the tournament, it could affect their career. But I tell people, and I've told the other tournament directors, you know, you look at the field, if it's 100 anglers and one guy steps out of bounds, you got to think about those 99 guys that are in bounds. Right. And that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. I want to double back real quick, Trip, on weather delays, weather cancellations. You brought it up. We all watched this week as Bass postponed the event for a few days because of, you know, high water, you know, wind, potential storms. Right. That's a tough thing. And I looked from afar and I saw some of the anglers posting these beautiful calm water in the morning in the back. Right. And you know, you wonder if those are the right decisions. But I want to talk in generality of the old days versus the new days. And I know just in my time, Trip, I remember the events like, you know, late 90s, mid 90s to early 2000s. You guys didn't keep us back from a lot at all. Like, I remember the Classic in Chicago.
Cowboy days.
I mean, dude, 12-footers on Lake Michigan. Go. I remember Thousand Island opens out of Clayton where, you know, there's a straight west wind blowing right into the river. Go. You know, I remember those days. Is it right that that it seems like we're living in a more cautious time with tournaments, or should we go back to those days where you fish regardless, right? It's almost up to the angler, you know, on what to do.
That's a good question. I don't know that I can answer it. You know, those days you're talking about were in 17-foot boats with a 150 too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They weren't 20, 21-foot boats. But, you know, we have so much technology, so much at your disposal now. I know the last, 6 or 8 years, every day when my feet hit the floor, first thing I do is grab my phone and look at the weather.
Right.
You know, and see what the weather's doing. And so, and there's so much more involved now. You know, you have marshals, you have camera guys to think about what you're talking about. Were a lot of draw tournaments. Yeah. Both guys were, most of the times, were boaters in the tournament. One just lost the flip of a coin, or let the other guy talk him out of going in his boat. And you had co-anglers that were tournament anglers as well, but so much more at your disposal now. And I think the world in general is more cautious now.
You're right.
How much does
not near as reckless?
Yeah, you're right.
Trip, how much does like the 24-hour news cycle that we live in now have an effect on, like you had to have experienced this as a tournament director, going from, the early 2000s to the point that you retired. Things changed a lot, and now as soon as something happens in a tournament, if something bad, God forbid, happens, it's on social media, it's on the feeds right away. Like, how much did that weigh on you as a tournament director, knowing that your decisions, are going to be just magnified?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, when I first became tournament director, man, I was in the chat rooms and trying to soak in as much information as I could, but I soon learned that part of social media I just had to leave alone, especially the chat rooms, because it's so easy to be brave, behind or with a keyboard in your hand. Rather than face to face. And so people will say anything, before they know it. So I learned real quick to try to stay away from some of that stuff. You can't stay away from all of it. And you're going to read it, you're going to hear it, and you just have to grow tough skin and let stuff roll off your back. But it's not easy. I'll tell you that it's not easy.
How long did that take, Trip, from the time that you became a tournament director? Like, I know it wasn't instantaneous that you became a tournament director and you're like, all right, I can make all these decisions and just be bulletproof. Like, that has to take some time to build up that that mindset to just know that when a tough decision has to be made, you got to make it.
That's tough.
It took years. I mean, it's not easy, and it wasn't easy. Last year or the year before. I mean, right up till the day I retired, some decisions are tough decisions. So you just put your head down and work and do the best you can. But the social media deal, it took me about 3 or 4 years. I said, I can't do these chat room deals. I wouldn't respond, but I would read all the comments and stuff. And man, sometimes, I mean, Mike, they'll rake you over the coals.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know. I'm not even tournament fishing anymore, and they still rake me over the coals. Pete, I want your input on this real quick, what we're talking about. I mean, I get it, right? Times have changed. Tournaments are different now than they were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. We're in a different culture, right? We're in a cancel culture right now, right? We're in a culture where it's easier, to not take a risk, just cancel it. And we've, and I'm not taking anything away from any of these decisions, because we've had deaths and we've had injuries, and, we're probably smarter for it now. But I miss the good old, I miss those days. I am telling you, like, there was something about just knowing that you were going, right? That you were going, that if you had waves to battle through, then that's part of the decision, right? Do you stay close? Do you battle those waves?
It's part of being an angler.
If there were storms predicted, it's up to you, right? Did you want to take shelter? I miss that. I miss that Wild West element of it. Do you feel the same, Peter? Do you feel good about how the culture's changed?
No, Trick, cancel that day.
Pete doesn't want to go.
I remember staying at the cabin on Thousand Islands. We were staying together in that one tournament, and like the cabin's thin walls, and you can hear the leaves on the trees just and you're like, you wake up and you're like, oh no, and then you go outside and it blows you over, and you look at the flags and they're like so straight, like frozen, and you're like, oh my God, it's got to be like 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And then the forecast comes in and it says we got the Canadian weather, and it's like 3 to 4 meter waves out on Lake Ontario.
Meter.
And you're like, are you kidding me? But we've trained ourselves the entire time. Mike, I remember we've had this conversation a million times. If you're going to fish Lake 1,000 Islands, you got to go to the lake. If the wind blows, you got to go to the lake. Yeah. And I remember, I remember being out on Lake Ontario this day, and I was drifting. That's all I could manage to do. And I'm coming up on this shoal, and I didn't realize it got that shallow, and a 12-foot wave curled on me.
Oh my God!
I didn't know,
brother.
Wow!
It curled on me literally, and it filled my boat up in just one instant. And I was level flotation now in these 10 to 12 foot seas.
Oh man!
And I was about 5 miles away from the mouth of Lake Ontario, or the St. Lawrence River. And I remember Mark Menendez. Shout out to Mark Menendez. Came by me and saw that I was clearly in distress. And, you think? Dude, I'm in
GoPros back then.
I know.
I'm in the driver's seat, and water's like up to my lower chest, and the waves were hitting me up around my neck as they would just roll right over the boat, but my motor started, and it idled. And I was able to idle, and Mark Menendez in the middle of the tournament idled with me for about an hour. Till I could get into the mouth of the river.
Wow.
And
Ike would have never done that, Pete.
I wouldn't have done that. Now listen, I would have stopped and put you in my boat with me. You want to ride back? I don't know if I would have idled for an hour. But
would not have idled
I
for an
probably
hour.
would not have. Shout out to Mark Menendez. He's a good dude. So.
He's way better.
He's a way better dude than I am.
Yeah, he was sitting on a good bag. So I'm in that instance, boy. I don't know. So I'm skilled now. I know how to fish in that stupid, ridiculous 10-foot waves. I know how to do it now, and nobody should know how to do that. Right.
No, I think you should though. Honestly, as a fisherman, if you're going to be on big water, you need to know how to handle those kinds of scenarios because it can get scary. You know.
But again, I get your point, Pete. And again, I think safety should come first. But that element of
you're alive.
Like those exciting moments, dangerous, scary moments. That's a part of the sport that I loved, and I'm glad I got to experience them. Let me remind everybody watching, we've got the world's best tournament director ever, Trip Weldon, on the show tonight. If you've got a question or a comment for Trip, please hit us up. Riz, we got a couple. Let's put a couple through.
Yeah, for sure. We got Dr. Kayak on the message board, and he wants you to know, Trip. Trip. I run some small local tournaments locally. And I look up to you, especially when I run the bigger events. Thanks for all that you did for bass.
Nice.
And he also wants to know, Trip, can you share some light on the situation when Mike got in a fight with a dog on Grand Lake?
Of course.
Oh, boy. That's funny. I really didn't know about the dog until somebody told me about it. And,
did the dog
I just shrugged it off. That's Mike. It was no big deal to me. But, I appreciate your kind words.
Oh, that was a rough day for me equipment-wise. And I did, that was one of those ones where you take your anger and frustrations out on usually I do it on an inanimate object. Usually it's a depth finder that I kick off the front or a rod. But that day,
windshield.
But that day, that dog would not stop barking. He was on the end of the dock. I was having a bad day. I shouldn't have did it. It was one of those ones I shouldn't have did. But I did go back the next day. I fished that same little ridge. This was Grand Lake. It was a little ridge, little pre-spawn spot. I went back the next day. The craziest thing, Pete, that dog was still on the dock. The second day I went there, I apologized to him. And when I did that, he stopped barking.
No way.
He did. That's a true story. That was day 3 that happened. The dog did not bark after that. And to this day, we exchange Christmas cards every Christmas.
Beautiful.
So,
that's awesome.
Yes, it's all good.
That's funny. Can I ask Trip a question? You've been doing this. You did this 30 years.
Yeah.
There had to be some egregious cheating that attempted to take place. I read where guys had a false live well in a boat and got caught in some buddy tournament trail, or putting, coolers in, with fish in them, going in the back of a creek, and putting them in their live well. What was the most egregious thing that you saw during your tenure?
I guess the most egregious thing that I saw in a bass event, I was not there, it was an open, was the guy had, I think it was an open, the guy had a fish tied to a line, and an angler caught it. You guys remember this. An angler hooked that line in practice, and he reported it to the tournament officials, who reported it to the Game and Fish, and they went out and marked the fish, and then the guy came through the weigh-in line with that fish.
Wow.
And you couldn't do anything until, it's like shoplifting. You got to get out of the store.
Right.
And so when he weighed the fish, our guy at the measuring table was clued in to the markings on that fish. And it was just like when it came through, he looked at the Game and Fish guy and just tipped his hat, gave him the signal, and the Game and Fish, of course, it was in their hands then.
Right.
They let him weigh the fish, and the angler stepped off stage, and they made the arrest.
Tackled him.
Wow.
What kind of markings did they do?
It was something on the tail, I think. I think they either put
the tail or something.
punched a hole in the fin or the tail or something, but it was a clear marking that they knew, and of course, it was fraud and all that good stuff.
Damn.
But like I say, it was like shoplifting. They had to let him get outside the store before they made the arrest.
Was this the guy that fished like exposed hook jigs and he would get the jig caught on that line and get it up the line and hook the fish legit, like he would actually hook them, because he had to fool his partner, right? He had to find a way to trick his partner into that being a legitimate catch.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't this guy.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
That was another cheater.
Wow. I tell you, I can tell you from my experience in tournament fishing is anytime you have money involved, right? The more that money goes up, the more some guys will be willing to push the boundaries. Now that's an extreme case, but I think anytime you have that kind of money on the line, you have to deal with this kind of stuff. This is a good segue. Pete, I'm glad you asked that. Trip, you guys have used, Bass has used, now other circuits have used it and are using it, the polygraph for years. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that is and was a good system to enforce, some of the rules amongst the anglers?
I think it's I've been asked that a bunch. I think it's one of the many tools you have in your tool chest as a tournament director. We had, when I was tournament director, we had great examiners. I did have a couple of squirrely ones that in other states, but most of the examiners we used that we used full time were very good. And there were, like you give the test, and we, how we do it, Mike. We draw most of the time. We do it random.
Random draw, yeah. Random
draw, and you got a guy gets in there, and the examiner asks questions before the exam, and you say, "Well, I had a guy come up to me at the gas station say I need to throw a black and blue jig."
Yeah.
Well, the damage is done there on info.
Yeah.
And so you get the examiner would rephrase the question. First question is, did you cut him off? Did you say, hey, I can't get information,
Right.
And other than the guy telling you to throw the black and blue jig, did you violate the no information rule? That's sort of the deal. But back to your question, I think it's just one of the tools.
Right.
And I think it's been effective, yes.
Yeah. Now, I know the answer to this, but we've got a lot of people listening and watching, and I want you to address it here. And I already know the answer, but over the years, you know, there's always conspiracy theories that, you know, there were rigged polygraphs. I remember, you know, an FLW angler coming back to bass, and there was an incident, and, you know, it was because of the FLW thing. I never believed any of that was true. But how have you dealt with those things over the years? Because that's a tough criticism, you know?
Well, your answer is right. They were definitely 100% not rigged.
Right.
You know, unless there was a call for a polygraph, they were all strictly random. The examiner had the general questions way ahead of time before the tournament ever happened. So, you know, we would let the anglers draw out the boat numbers for the people to be examined on that day. If your boat was boat number 15 and the angler reached in our bag of poker chips that were 1 through 100 and drew out 15, then you had to take the random polygraph.
Yeah.
And the questions were generic. They mostly evolved around the no information rule.
Yeah.
And a few other relevant tournament specific questions, but no, they were never rigged. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've taken a bunch, and I can remember it was all the worst polygraphs I've ever took over the years. Was I would always get drawn the second day for my polygraph when I didn't make the cut. So I was always so pissed off that I didn't make the cut, and then I had to stick around for the polygraph. I was like, why does this always happen to me like this?
Your heartbeat's already through the roof.
Yeah, like I'm already like disgusted, right? Because I'm not gone on the fish the next day.
Throwing action figures out your window.
It was like every time. It was like every damn time, I swear.
Oh, they're going to get the best of you.
Oh, God. That's how it happened. I swear. It pissed me off. I want to switch it real quick and talk about some positive stuff. Tripp, you have worked with bass a long time. You've seen so many amazing anglers, amazing talents come up over the years. Gosh, from Brian Kershaw to Kevin Van Dam to, you know, Aaron to Skeet. You've seen so many of these guys over the years. Did you know, like, early on, like when you first, you know, were at an event with Kevin, did you know back then that he was going to become one of the best in the world? Did you ever did you know these guys were going to be this good, or did it just develop over time?
Well, you know, my history with Kevin, my first tournament was the 91 Classic in Baltimore, which was his first Classic.
Yep.
And so he was a young hot shot, but early on I knew about him. Absolutely. I mean, you know, he was just so good, but, a lot of you guys you were one of them. I mean, so many anglers, and I tell people all the time, man, it was a honor and a pleasure. You know, it was honor to just be right there with the legends, you know, Roland Martin and Rick Clunn and Larry Nixon and all those guys. And then I had the great pleasure of seeing young anglers become legends in the sport. So I've been fortunate in my life. In the bass fishing world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were there any anglers, Tripp, that were short-lived in the sport that could have been greats? I know, you know, we get guys every year that'll be in for a year or two, and then for whatever reason they go a different direction in life. Do you remember any specifically that you thought could have been a great?
You know, it's none come to mind at the top of my head, but you mentioned Brian Kershaw and being there when he won the Classic, and that was so cool because the Federation was so strong at that time, and when he won, and just, you know, he's such a good-looking kid and had such a bright future, and so tragic. I'll never forget the day at Bass when I walked in the office and Don Corcoran gave me that news that he had tragically died in a plane crash. And man, it was a somber mood around Bass headquarters for a long time.
Yeah, it was here in the Northeast too, because we're all Federation guys here, and man, I remember it, Pete. You know, I remember. In fact, Brian, I remember like it happened, and then we had like a club meeting.
Yeah.
It was either the week it happened or the next week. It
We
was
had, I think,
right
it was,
after.
It was our club banquet.
Was it our banquet?
Yeah. November, December.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And man, I remember just the feeling of emptiness, you know, because he, for the guys in the Northeast trip, I mean, he was a representative of the National Federation, but he was a representative of the Northeast. He was us. He was one of us, you know.
Absolutely.
He was an underdog.
He was an underdog, and he was a Northerner. He was a Yankee. He worked at the freaking ground round, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And I remember what a tragedy it was, but it was also an inspiration for a lot of guys. Pete, I know he was an inspiration for you as well.
He clearly was. As a matter of fact, every time I see one of those culprit worms,
Great
I
shot.
think of him.
Yeah,
You
or
know,
the whistle.
and
Yeah.
When I see the
Oh, the
whistle.
whistle.
Yeah.
The whistle. This one right there. You go.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Right
Hit
He's
it.
got it.
Hit it, Pete.
Yeah.
Give it two toots real quick. There you go.
Trip. Speaking of powerful forces, you got to spend a lot of time, I would imagine, with Ray Scott, and
Yeah.
I mean, tell me about that. I mean, you know, the monumental force in this sport created something for us all.
Yeah, well, you know, it goes way back really to my childhood in Montgomery, Alabama. And Ray Scott, I grew up in Capitol Heights. Ray Scott grew up in Capitol Heights. So we shared a lot of life stories, you know, about growing up in Montgomery and a lot of the people we knew. And golly, I knew all of his family. He was, when I came on board at Bass, he was emceeing tournaments. He no longer owned Bass. He had sold it to Helen and Carl Dabbs and the Jemison group. And but I'd see him at tournaments, see him at Bass headquarters, and we spent a lot of time together. You know, I was very lucky and I guess in that respect to be around Ray Scott all those years.
I was fortunate to come across the stage, and he weighed me in, and I was, you know, that was a monumental thing for me. And you know, where's the sport going, Trip? I mean, we've got a lot going on now. We've had a third tournament trail enter the game. Where is it? Where are we going with this thing?
Well, I hope it's going to great things. I mean, we put the fans in the boat, and that was a monumental step. I mean, that was always the big challenge, getting fans in the boat, and with the live stuff. I hope it goes to great things. I hope we don't hit a recession like we did in 2008, because that was tough on a lot of guys. And I know it's tough on these anglers right now with gas prices going up like they are. And so, you know, I hope we see more and more great stuff, because being a tournament junkie, I still watch a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Me too. I remember that in 08. I remember the recession of 08, losing all the sponsors and gas prices being at almost $5 a gallon.
Oh man, we went to California. Mike can tell you. I mean, out there in California, you're almost $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
And that's once you get to California. You're from New Jersey to California is a long way, right, Mike?
It's a 40-hour drive.
It's a long way.
And a lot of gas.
Yeah.
A lot of gas.
It's a long ways. Trip, of all the, you know, Bass has changed hands a little bit over the years. Of all the ownership groups that you've worked with, was there one error or one owner that really stood out as being, you know, critical in the growth of the sport?
Well, I go back to my beginning in 91 and Helen Severe.
Yeah.
Helen's leadership, and I'm so glad she got in the Hall of Fame. It was way past due, in my opinion. She should have been in there really from day one. But I know when Ray hired her, Bass took off. She was a marketing genius. ESPN days were fun. It was certainly cool to be part of ESPN, you know, but then when Jerry and Don and Jim Copeland bought Bass, it was Don Logan's still a very close friend of mine. Jerry was a great friend, and I miss him. And things he did, you know, around the sport, and that's where all the live started with JM but Chase and those guys, they're great. So I enjoyed, you know, working through all the ownerships. It's funny, I was talking to somebody and I said, when I was at Bass, I had like 16 different bosses. I had a list of the people I reported to over my 30-year span. Yeah. And so it's changed a lot, but I guess I did something right. They never got rid of me, so I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I think every owner that comes in does something to advance the sport a little bit, and it just keeps growing. So, Tripp, will you do me a favor? Will you hang in there with us for one more segment? We have a special guest we're going to bring on, Tripp, for you. Hang in there with us because I think this next segment's going to be good. Listen, if you're watching tonight, hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. We've got the one and only Tripp Weldon with us. Hang in there. When we come back from this short commercial break, more Ike Live.
4.5-inch drop shot worm, Bama bug. Finesse jig, PB&J, give me something hard. Hey, KVD here. Now, I didn't always know this much about fishing. 4-aught EWG worm hook. In fact, there was a time when I couldn't tell the difference between a jerkbait and a stickbait. But then I signed up for Mystery Tackle Box, the original monthly tackle subscription. And now I know more about fishing than I do about calculus.
And he knows a lot about calculus.
Plus, I get amazing extras like free fishing magazines. October 2016. Featured article, 4 places to throw a frog. Exclusive decals. Zombie bass. And how-to videos for all the great baits I receive. How to tune a crankbait. Is that underwater footage I smell?
I got goosebumps.
So if you're looking to develop enhanced fishing abilities like me, or you just like getting new tackle every month, go to mysterytacklebox.com and get your box today. Ooh, live minnows. Is it lunchtime already? Nature's candy. Oh. Is he in my pocket?
This time of year, I definitely recommend putting a little bit of this on your soft plastics too. There he is. Another one. Next cast. And that would be number 6. I'm addicted. I'll admit it. I'm straight addicted.
Might be bigger.
You think so?
Yeah. Feels bigger. I haven't even seen this thing yet. It doesn't want to come up. Don't break me off the rocks.
Oh, it's a... Oh!
27-incher.
He caught it.
28.
Oh my god, that's such a healthy fish. Look at this size. Put a little liquid mayhem on your crappie jig, and look where the stripers get it. You can't even see it, man. That might be a keeper.
This is your tackle. Not that kind of tackle. You use it to catch this, or this, or this. You also use this, and that, and these. This is your environment. So is this. You love it, live for it, but it will turn this into that. This is the Flambeau Z-Rust Max Tough Tainer series. These are fully infused with exclusive Z-Rust VCI anti-corrosion technology. This is a U.S. naval battleship. The same Z-Rust technology used here has been used on those to protect advanced weapon systems from corrosion in conditions like these. For the fish, it's invisible, odorless, tasteless. And for you, it's FDA-safe anti-rust protection for a minimum of 5 years. This is the next level of tackle management, not that kind of management. This is the Flambeau legacy of tackle systems. What's your tackle worth?
It's more than who you are. It's who you're with. And it's more than what you do. It's where you do it. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey.
Folks at home, welcome back to a brand new edition of Ike Live here on a glorious Sunday. We've got the one and only Tripp Weldon with us tonight, and what a great show. It's amazing catching up with Tripp and hearing some of the stories. Let me remind you, if you're watching over on Facebook, Please like and share the feed, and you'll be entered in a chance to win the Ike Live gift bag. Load it with sponsor products. Also, we want to hear from you. Please hit us up on the IM. Riz is going to be pushing your comments through, and if you're watching on social media at Ike Live Show, we're also going to get a few of those through here in a second. I want to get Tripp back on, and this is an amazing fact I want to throw before we get Tripp back on. Listen to this, Brian the Carpenter.
Yes.
Are you ready for this? This was in your notes, and this is a great tidbit for everybody. In over 50 years of BASS history, right, from the beginning, there has only been 3 tournament directors.
From the dawn of time.
From the dawn of time. Not including the current tournament director. There's only been 3. Harold Sharp, 1970 to 1986. Dewey Kendrick, 1986 to 02. And, of course, Tripp Weldon, 02 to 21. So with that, I want to bring Tripp back in. And we've got a really special thing here tonight. Tin Cup Whiskey, Brian the Carpenter sent us this black label, which is – this is special stuff.
This is the Tin Cup 10-year.
This is the 10-year American whiskey. This is almost like stuff you don't drink. This is stuff you save. It becomes a collector item. You find it on eBay for $8,000.
This is that retirement drink.
But, Tripp, we're all going to toast you tonight to an amazing career and changing the sport for the better, working for Bass all those years. Thank you, Tripp. This is to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
You're here.
Thank you.
Wow, wow.
Whoa.
Wow, that's smooth.
Cheers again, Tripp.
Cheers again. We're just going to keep cheersing you all night now. That's so good. Oh, my gosh. Wow, please get more of that. Tin Cup, if you're watching, please send more.
Yeah, that's actually it actually qualifies as a bourbon.
Oh, my gosh, it's so good.
It's delightful.
Tripp, I want to get right into this question because I had this one on my notes highlighted, and this is a good one. And remember, this is Ike Live Show. We don't have a lot of rules here, Tripp. There's only one, and you have to be honest. You have to tell the truth. That's the only one. Yeah, we'll give you a polygraph tonight, just to make sure. We're going to change it. We're going to turn it back on you.
Get him.
You have to be honest on this one. All the years working with Bass and being on that stage, who was the best MC you've ever worked with?
Oh, wow. Boy, you put me on the spot. I guess, they all were great, man. I mean, I love working with Fish, and Keith Allen was fantastic. But I worked longer with Mercer, I think, than anybody. And Dave is great. I tell you, he's a tournament angler for Fish was as well. But boy, Dave was great. Yeah. And he's a lot of fun to be around, man. He's a cool dude.
I look at the history, of Bass and the MCs, and that relationship that you have with the MC on stage, that was always a big part of it for me. The relationship you had with Fish, with Mercer, your interaction, your commentary, and that made the show. That made the weigh-in. Was that something you would rehearse with these guys, Tripp? Like, did you set aside time with Fish and Mercer and say, all right, this is like Charlie Chaplin. This is how we're going to interact, or was it just a natural progression?
Most of the 99.9% of the time it was natural progression. Yeah. We would talk about backstage. When I come on, let's talk about. Real briefly, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about if there was a disqualification or whatever. I think it was the classic, maybe that you won, that Fish said, hey, it'd be really cool when I introduce you, you don't come on stage. Of course, you guys, you didn't see this. He said, why don't you come up through the fish hole?
Wow.
There's a hole, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
He introduces me, and, he can't find me, and all of a sudden I crawl out of this hole. out from under the scales, and that was Fish's idea.
Wow.
But most of the time it's ad lib. You know, it's stuff, and it evolves during the weigh-in. You know, things happen, or somebody brings in a big catch, or they tell a story, or whatever, and it's ad lib.
Yeah, you've had some amazing experiences on that stage. You've got to hold some of the biggest bass, the heaviest 5 ever weighed in a bass event, the smallest 5 ever weighed in at a bass event. Which ones stick out? I know the Lake Toho Dean Rojas. That's burned in my memory of you guys holding that giant string up. But what are some of the other ones, Trip?
I was not at Toho.
You weren't at that one?
No. I was actually. I think Mark Davis had weighed in like 39 pounds.
Yeah.
Right before Dean came in, and Sarah Cummins called me on the telephone. We're there in the old bass trailer, and she said, "You're not going to believe this. Mark Davis just weighed in like 39, whatever." And she said, "Wait a minute. They say Rojas has got more than what Mark had." I said, "No way." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Stick the phone out the window and let me listen to Ray call the weight." And that's exactly, Fish called the weight. And that's exactly what she did. She stuck the phone out the window, and I heard it live. I didn't have to go to the hotline to hear that.
Wow.
But, I told Luke Duncan and Dave Mercer that 2 of the coolest tournaments that I've been to were in the state of Pennsylvania. The Pittsburgh Classic was one of them, even though it only took 12 pounds to win, was one of the coolest classics.
I'd agree.
You know, the town was abuzz with bass fishing. Sid the Kid had just been drafted by the Penguins, and it was just a cool event. And then Philadelphia was off the charts.
Yeah,
I tell you what, Philadelphia was great. And I know Jerry McKinnis was so excited about having that tournament. And when you winning in the crowd that final day, man, it was super cool. But I've been asked that question, and there's nothing that compares to the classic stage.
Right.
So being on that classic stage is by far the best.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you mentioned the Philadelphia one, and I know in my career, Trip, that one was a special one, and the energy there, man, I've only felt it a few times in my career.
Make the hair stand up on your arms.
It was amazing. I was, in a million years, I would have never have thought that a major pro event would have come to that fishery. And I'm so glad it happened. I'm so glad it happened. I'm glad you were there. I'm glad Mercer was there. I'm glad Jerry decided to have it.
Brian the Carpenter was there.
Brian the Carpenter was there. I'm so glad that happened. And if I never fish another tournament in the rest of my life, that's the one at the top for me.
Well, it was such a cool venue too.
Yeah.
Being right there in Philly and in that amphitheater and all those people packed in there, and the energy level, like you talk about, was, man, it was off the charts. It was so cool.
Crazy energy. The classics too, and you mentioned that, but the interesting thing at the classic is I would always get the chills every time I'd come in the classic. My first one to my last one, and then even like last year's classic that Hank won, I was there working the booths and watching it, and I still got the chills at the classic. There's something special about that event. All right, we've got a special guest joining us. Trip, you just mentioned him, and he's here with us on the Zoom machine. Dave Mercer,
yes,
joining us on Ike Live tonight. Dave,
welcome.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm doing good. I miss you, Trip. I mean, I'll be honest. It's not the freaking same without Trip. I mean, we're the exact opposite. He can say everything without saying anything, and I say nothing while saying everything. And
All right. First of all, Dave, first question. I can't believe, where are you? Are you at the Pickwick event?
I am. I literally left a dinner that Trip, and you'll understand this, Bruce Aiken is paying tonight, and I freaking left that dinner, which is a rarity, ladies and gentlemen. Trip, that shows you how much I love you.
Wow. Well, hey, Mike, just so you know, when they have those dinners, that top shelf stuff you have on the coffee table in front of you, they get into a little bit of that. So I bet it did pain Dave to have to leave that.
No, we don't. No, we don't. All right. They do have to-go cups, it turns out.
All right, Dave, first of all, I'm glad they let you out of Canada. Thank God for that. Second of all, right before you came on, I talked about the dynamic that you guys had all those years, and it was a big part of it for me, was that weigh-in, bringing fish up, whether it was a good day or a bad day. You guys had this dynamic that was unbelievable, right? Trip, stone cold, just business, facts, and Dave Mercer, jokes, prying, like getting stuff out. Give us a couple. What were some of the best moments you've shared the stage with Trip?
I mean, it's limitless, really. Before we did this, I was like literally working out. I mean, me and Trip have spent just in weigh-in days, literally over a year of our life together on stage. So you experience all sorts of things. And the amazing thing with Trip is, there's the job thing, but it's your job, and when you spend that amount of time with each other, it's just like being roommates on the road. I mean, you're gonna see things and hear things and experience things that you probably didn't want to. And I'll tell you the thing about Trip that nobody would ever understand, that amazes me. And it's a side of Trip that I consider myself very lucky to have seen is Trip is, like I said, he can say everything without, he's one of those people that, like, literally that's one of the biggest things I miss about him. And I think our entire team will always miss is, and it, Ike. I mean, Trip can look at you and number one, make you shrivel. He could also look at you and let you know, hey, man, we're good. Yeah. You're good. We're all good. But Trip is a wonderful mother, too. You would never imagine that about him. And I'll tell you, at a Bassmaster Classic, several times during our, over a year together on the stage, I mean, I got sick or different things. You know what I mean? He's been under the weather. I've been under the weather. But at one particular Classic, 3 anglers in, I got food poisoning or something. Like, I mean, I was fine. I get on stage and 3 anglers in, I'm like, oh, I didn't know, but all of a sudden, like, there is food poisoning. It's horrible, no matter where you are. But when you're in an arena surrounded by people, it's not good. And it's so I'm up there and I'm like, well, I only have 48 more anglers left to go. Maybe I can tough it out. And I mean, I don't need an excuse to sweat. So, I mean, but I guess I started sweating a little more, and Trip started noticing. And then he's like, he noticed I was getting a little paler than even my pasty Canadian butt normally is. And in Trip fashion, I think he said to me, "Are you feeling poorly?" I told him, and I said, "Yeah, I'm in Trip. I'm not good." and by this point, Mike is in my ear. They can talk to me, but I can't talk to them other than like nodding. And sometimes you can answer a question, through the microphone just without anyone knowing, just through something, you know what I mean? Yeah. But so they get word that I'm sick, but before they ever got word, Trip got word to them. But I mean, Trip was bringing up buckets of ice and like all these rags with ice. And I'm going to tell you, I went from feeling so alone and like literally thinking, man, I am going to either crap my pants puke both at the same time or pass out on the Bassmaster Classic stage, and you're just like,
oh,
yeah, so this is what I become, the guy who died on this classic stage. And Trip, you know, mother henned me the whole way through it. And here's how it ends. And it ends very well with one of your good friends, Ike. I don't know if you've heard this story, but the picture of it survived for a long time. But so we get in anyways. Mike McKinnis and everybody in my ear knows that Mercer's sick. And somehow we need to get him off the stage and give him a few minutes, like, because I mean, you're sick. I mean, Bass will give you a couple of minutes, but don't take 4. So they say, we're going to have a dance off for 2 minutes. So anyways, they're like, in 5 anglers, you're going to get a dance off. But it's like when you're going home and you need to go to the bathroom. I mean, the closer you get, the harder it is. So I'm like, last angler, and I remember looking at Trip and thinking, oh, good God. The last angler before I'm supposed to get off is John Cruz, right? So he weighs in, and it's all disco balls and happiness. So it's all done. I mean, I say, okay, well, let's hear it for John Cruz, and all I'm thinking is I need to get out of there. Well, right as soon as I'm leaving, you might remember this picture because it was on his Facebook for a long time. Cruz goes, wait, before I leave the stage, we need to do a selfie together. So me and Cruz go to the end of the stage and do this like pose thing. And I'm like white as a ghost. And then when that was done, I ran off the stage, ran to the back bathroom. Trip made sure the path was freaking clear. That's the kind of guy he is. He knew I was feeling poorly, so he took care of me. I run to the bathroom. For those of you who know that have been around Bass, you'll know that we have a media guy that works the Classic named Chauncey. He was coming out of the bathroom, so that made my whole puke and rally a lot easier. 2 minutes later, I wiped it off, took a breath mint, got back to work. You did the second half of the way in, but if it wasn't for Trip, there is no way I would have made it through that.
Oh,
so
man. What a story.
Wow.
What a story. Now you guys have been through a lot, through ups, through downs, through amazing moments, through shitty moments. But I gotta ask both of you, and this is a question for Trip and Dave. This is a joint question. And remember, it's Ike Live. You got to answer it honestly, right? You can't lie. How painful has it been for the last Trip with you, 30 years, Dave with you the last 10 or so years? How painful is it to hear another angler get on stage and say, I'd like to thank my Mercury for running me down the lake. I'd like to thank my Strike King crankbait. How painful is that, guys? Be honest. Trip, let's start with you. It's
start
painful.
with me or start with Dave?
No, let's start with you, Trip. It's painful, right?
It's very painful. And we didn't, hey, listen, Dave and I didn't have to say one word to each other. We just give each other that look because we know how painful it is. But to his credit, he could work through it and make light of it. But man, it was very painful.
Dave, take it.
I mean, I don't know about the Mercuries, but I'll tell you, my Yamaha does not burn any gas.
Oh, my God.
Somehow I think I just got myself in trouble. But anyway, I mean, that is painful to listen to, but people are trying to pay bills. And Iaconelli, you're no freaking different. You did the same crap, okay? You're about board made gasoline, okay? Honestly, is one of the things that it drives me crazy because sometimes I can tell, like, who's backstage. You know what I mean? If somebody comes up and they're like, everybody all of a sudden is promoting this, I'm like, well, so-and-so's back there talking to them before. So, but I get it. People got bills to pay, I guess.
Yeah. Dave,
but the worst is when they get about halfway through and then they forget and
Looking at the shirt that's down there.
That's when the pain really ratchets.
They need a cheat sheet.
And then
Fire
Trip,
no
and
card
then
out of their
Trip,
pocket.
Yeah.
and then Trip, they try to blame us. Like all of a sudden you'll get the, well, Trip, well, Dave, you know, am I forgetting anybody? Well, but yeah, whoever you didn't, like, it's not our job. I can't hardly remember my crap.
As a guy who many times has credited my boat and motor for driving me up and down the lake on stage, what do you recommend? What's the answer? What should a guy coming across that stage be prepared to do and say to entertain and inspire or educate? What do you like? What do you want to see guys do?
I like seeing the
Trip.
Some of the anglers are very savvy in mentioning their sponsor in a sentence, talking about their day.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm cool with that, and I get it. I mean, I know the sponsors are pounding on you. You got to mention me on stage. You got to mention me on stage, and I get that part. So I like seeing those guys that are professional and savvy about the way they mention their sponsors. That's what I like.
Yeah. Dave, chime in on
My advice has always been the same, and be real. Like, honestly, everybody, not everybody's Mike Iaconelli, not everybody's Gerald Swindle, not everybody's Takahiro Omori. I mean, there's some amazing, like, you look at people, like, I look at somebody like Talk, and I'm like, that dude was a genius at using any disadvantages he has. And Marizo, another guy who literally, like, I mean, people loved Marizo when he weighed in. Like, so people will use things and say, well, I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not. And I use examples like that, you know, be real, be yourself. Another prime example. And you are the freaking mold breaker of this. And you know it. I mean, you were a little geek for 10 years in your career. I mean,
that's true.
Told me to be honest, right?
That's true.
Right?
I admit that. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you were about to quit and you won a big event. You were like, holy crap. But you still didn't really care, but you had lots of money. So you were like, I'm going to be myself. And then guess what happened? Mike Iaconelli became what we all love as Mike Iaconelli, and what all you guys, and I mean you guys by his friends, always loved about Iaconelli, the real Iaconelli. You probably all drove you guys crazy when you saw Ike being what the industry probably, or what all of us think the industry wants us to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
when you had his shirt
another
tucked
example of that.
Right? You had your
What's
shirt
that?
tucked in that few years.
Oh yeah, I tucked my shirt in. I had my shirt tucked
Remember the
in.
vest?
Yeah.
Or not? Remember
I
that
had a
vest? I mean,
absolutely. Yes, I did.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. You must have hate. No wonder you were miserable back then.
It was a tight vest, and the patches itched. You know, the patches itched. They itched my boobs. All right, another question for both you guys. And again, this is, you got to be honest, okay? I love this couple because he's an amazing fisherman, and she's a supportive wife, and you know, a family that travels together. Trip, you know, you've been there for watching Vegas grow up, and you know, you've been there helping Becky a lot when she needed help, so you know how important families are. But how hard is it to hear Jennifer Lowen scream every time Bill Lowen weighs in? Be honest. Trip, let's start with you.
I just turn around and face the other way.
Dave, you heard it today, so let's get an update.
I hear it every day, and honestly, I mean, I like you said, I love them.
I love them too.
It's loud. It's loud. And I mean, Jennifer knows. I mean, I think I've made enough jokes at the Night of Champions that have probably got me in trouble over the years. But I will say, we're supposed to be honest, right? Here's the best part about that, guys. And Trip will never tell you this because he's way too much of a gentleman. But the best part about that is if you watch some of the wives that are generally sitting in the crowd, like they know the beginning. I mean, they hear the same crap every day. So when they hear from Brookville, you see wives all of a sudden, they prepare for the moment. I mean, but hey, you're cheering, right? It's a passion.
Yeah, I love Jennifer and Bill, and the thing is, it's coming, so you're not blindsided by it. You're prepared for it. So
no, I love
it coming.
I love those guys, and I'm glad she does it. But I remember, I think it was like his first or second year on tour when all this started. The first like 3, 4, 5 times it happened, I honestly thought somebody was getting stabbed or shot or hurt. Like, I remember, like, just jumping, like, in the weigh-in line. Like, oh, God, what just happened? All right, here it goes, guys. You ready? I've got a top 5 list. I need both of you to answer it. It's Ike Live. You got to be honest. Starting with Tripp.
Wait a second. Do you have a lot of unhonest guests? Like, every question, you're like, what? Have we not proved we're being honest
here? You have. And here they go. The happiest guy that you've weighed in over the years. Tripp?
Ooh.
The happiest guy.
Ooh. The happiest guy.
The happiest guy.
Can't wait for
You're talking
question.
Dave,
30
jump
years
in.
of weigh-ins, man.
Dave, jump in if you can think of one. The happiest
I got
guy.
one right off the top of my head right away, and it's a guy I deal with every day now, Jeff Gustafson.
Yeah,
I mean
yes, Gussie. Yes,
yeah. He is. I mean, those other 2 Canadians, I'll tell you about them. They're just dicks. Let's be honest.
Yes.
They're so talented, and they're just put on earth to take titles from good, hardworking people like Bill Lowen. It's horrible. But Gussie he's one. I mean, he's just a regular dude, and it's amazing. Like the amount of. I was never prouder, honestly, of those. Obviously, those 3 guys I've known since they were all little kids. But I was never prouder after Gussie, won this last one, and the amount of media that told me, like the beginning of this tournament, they're like, Gussie called me. Photographers and people like that he's just a special dude. So yeah, he loves every moment of it. And even when he sucked on day 1 this week, he smiled.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Some guys, you've got those guys that probably never really think they're going to win an event, and they win it, and it's life-changing for them. And then there are other guys, it's a relief to some of them to finally win an event.
Yeah.
They've been at it so long. So I don't know. There's been a lot of moments and a lot of happy anger, especially on that classic stage.
Yeah, it's a life changer. All right, you might have already answered it, Dave, on this next one. The most pissed off anglers you've weighed in over the years. Most pissed off. Are you pointing?
I'm not pointing at Tripp in case you're asking.
Hold on now. It's highs and lows though. You've gotten them on both ends of the spectrum, I'm sure.
Tripp, I'll let you answer first.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Tripp, the most.
I don't know. You can feel the body language sometimes. Let's just leave it like that. Come on stage when they've had a bad day. You can feel it. So,
hey, is anybody a close second?
No.
All right, I get that one. I'll take that one. I'll take it.
But I'm talking about on stage. Like, I will say that one thing about Ike is, and I'm very much that way myself, and where people don't ever guess. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm upset about something, and Ike's that way, but I will say, like when you get away from that moment, you're also one of the coolest dudes ever to even talk about the tough moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have, I mean, I think you're delusional a lot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, let me tell you the best Iaconelli story ever. And I don't even know if you remember this.
Oh,
and
no.
Tripp, I've told you this because we laughed about it, but it was happened at you said, be honest. It happened at, look how honest I am. I wore glasses for this interview. I look studious.
Yeah.
It happened at, so the night, the few days before the Classic, we do a bunch of interviews and Ike obviously knows, he goes through the whole thing, but you go into an interview room and there's a bunch of cameras and lights, and that's where you do the, how much this would mean to me, interviews, the emotional interviews. And so some years we have more time, some years we have less time, but I remember one year we had a long time and we talked to Ike about a bunch of things, and Ike did an interview and he talked to me about how he thought it was normal. And he said, it's good to exhale the bad. Yeah. And he said, if you smash something, you smash something and you move on. And you move on and it's gone, right?
Right.
So I don't know if you remember this, Ike, and it never was part of the interview, but I said to Ike, you just had a little baby boy, beautiful baby boy, Vegas, just a year or two ago at the time. Yeah. I said, let's say a couple of years from now, Miss Pac-Man eats him and the video game goes bad. If he just kicks the shit out of his door, is that okay, Iaconelli? I remember Ike saying, well, I mean, you got to get rid of, I don't know what his excuse was, but.
Let me just tell you, thank God Vegas got Becky's jeans on that one. Because that dude, I've boat captained now for him for 2 years in the junior federation and the junior nation. That dude has Becky's anger management. Like he doesn't get frazzled.
How about the other one?
Stella gets frazzled. Stella has mine. Stella's pissed off. Vegas is Becky. Thank God.
And your dog took after the Grand Lake dog.
My dog took after. I know. He stole my damn socks earlier in the show. And just to mention on that one, the most pissed off. I want to tell you though, every time I came on stage, there were a lot of times I wasn't happy, but I would always, Dave and Trip, I'd always weigh my fish. I'd always get up there and at least say something. I'd say a word or two.
Probably.
My first year at MLF, I was so pissed off in one of the tournaments. I got up on stage and didn't say a word. I just stayed quiet. So I just thought
they had a stage?
They had a stage. The first year they had a stage. I was so mad I didn't even say anything. All right.
Nobody saw it.
Nobody saw it anyway. It didn't matter. All right. Number 3. I got 2 more. Most awkward on stage over the years. Yes. Most awkward. Trip, give me one. There's been a lot. There's been a lot over the years. Come on. Just give me one. It's okay.
Oh, man.
Dave,
there have been a lot
smiling.
of awkward moments.
Give us one. Most awkward.
You can't do this to Trip.
Yes.
I mean, he is a icon of our sport. He's a pillar, and you're putting, this is like throwing kryptonite in front of freaking Superman. You can't do that. But me, on the other hand, I mean, I have no standards, so I will save my partner in crime, Trip, and I'll give you one. I love this dude. Doesn't fish the Elite Series anymore. Everybody that fishes the Elite Series loves him. But Billy McKinnis, I'm going to tell you, he was one. Yeah. And it wasn't what he said. It was he had a awkward pause. And, and it was just a little too long, and I never could get it. So he would, at the time, he would promote a redneck remedy. You remember it? I mean, Kevin Short would promote a few different people promoted it. So I remember Billy McKinnis would always weigh, and he would finish his whatever he talked about, and he'd say, "I'd like to thank Redneck Remedy." And right about this point, I'd go, "Well, thank you." And he'd go, "It's a skincare ointment."
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's so good, though. Like, it's so good. Those awkward moments are so good, you know?
Oh, and Dave Lefebvre is friggin' Bizarro Land. I mean, I got off on that awkward.
Salute.
And Ish. Oh, yeah, Ish. The Ish.
Go ahead.
Those 3 names are on the message. Well, it's Ike, Lefebvre, not for awkward, for pissed off. It's Ike, Lefebvre, and Ish Monroe, top 3 coming through.
Wow. Awkward and pissed off. A double. All right, I got two more. I'll keep going. The worst English that you've had over the years. Trip, this is an easy one. A lot of Japanese anglers have graced the stage of BASS over the years, some with better English than others. Worst English over the years.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate. No. I've been fortunate in my life. I had a mother who lived on me for proper grammar. So sometimes I cringe at the grammar I hear on stage. You never end a sentence with a preposition, like where are you at? There's no where are you? So I don't know. And I tried to convey that to the anglers with their presentation on their presence on stage.
Yeah.
So they impress their sponsors, not only the fishing public, but their sponsors. So I don't know. I've heard some pretty bad grammar moments, I guess, through the years.
So it's not where my bitches at? Where are my bitches?
Right.
The brown starfish nominated Cajun Baby for the.
Cliff Crochet as worst English. Dave, you want to jump in on worst English? Worst grammar?
I got nothing for that. I mean,
Okay.
Cajun Baby, I mean, you can hardly understand him and on a good day, but I mean, that's part of, I've always said that I wanted to have him as a guest on Facts of Fishing, and we never worked it out because actually he was supposed to come on a show, true story. And this has been backed up because he has like 47 children.
He does.
But
That's
this is a true story. He was supposed to shoot a show and it was all set. But he would have had to stay a couple of days after Waddington, and he wanted to go home and make what he made, his beautiful family.
Make
I
more
guess.
babies.
So he didn't make it on that show. But I always wanted to have him on the show, and I said, if you come on the show, I'm putting subcaptions for everything you say.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. All right, last one. This one's the easiest out of all five. Most long-winded that you've ever dealt with over the years.
Ooh.
Most long-winded that you've dealt with. Trip, you got one? Dave, what do you got?
I'll let Dave answer that one. He's the guy with the mic in his hand.
One of the most amazing things in fishing happened today, guys.
Ooh.
And I'm going to talk about this guy. And Aaron Martin's competed again today, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Woo!
Let's go, Aaron.
Let's
Keep
go.
fighting, baby.
Dude, that dude can freaking talk.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, that's what I love about Aaron. Like, if you put a mic in front of him, he just doesn't stop. Like, I've tested it. As long as you leave the mic, he's just like, he just, well, bro, okay, sure, you want to keep talking? Like, he just doesn't, he won't stop. And I guess I realized I realized it when Leslie once said to me, she said, would you stop doing that thing with Aaron? And I'm like, what thing? Like, I'm like, oh, here's another angler wife yelling at me for not doing my job. Which Becky never did. Just so you know. Not that. But and I love Aaron and Leslie. Obviously, all of these are jokes.
Yeah.
But I guess when I would go ahead,
Aaron is long-winded, but it's beautiful long-winded. Like
it is.
Yes, he works. Yeah. He's worked for us at Bass University, Pete. You know, and we set up the seminar topics, and we're like, okay, Aaron, you're going to talk about the fish head spin on your first seminar, and 2 hours later, he's talked about fish head spin, spinnerbait, jig, crankbait, tying a leader, knots, how to trailer a boat, what shoes to wear. And it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful, random
Oh, my God, I know what you mean.
His
teasers are so hard to cut.
And I say this in a loving way. This is not making fun of him. It's beautiful. I love it, you know?
Oh, that's great.
Let me tell you my latest Aaron Martin story, and this is a side people probably don't see, but he's reaching out to me the whole time I'm going through chemo treatments with all that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, that was pretty special to me. It meant a lot.
Yeah.
And we're texting back and forth. He thought I was taking my treatments in Birmingham. He said, hey, we can what day do you take your treatments? We can hang out together. You know, when I'm taking mine, we'll visit old times. And so, you know,
Wow.
which my treatments were in Montgomery, but that's the side of Aaron that he's a special
That's
dude.
awesome.
It's so
That's
good.
awesome. We love
So
that.
good to see him out there competing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool to hear that. I gotta change the momentum of this a little bit, and this is a great segue talking about Aaron. And this is a rare opportunity for me to have both you guys on Ike Live Show at one time, and I wanna talk about this. How hard was it? And let me preface it by saying it was hard for me. How hard was it during the era when MLF was created and guys left Bass, and in keeping context that there was a bigger reason why guys were leaving, right? How hard was it for you guys during that time? Because again, let me say, for me, it was the hardest time of my entire career. It was a decision that I felt like I had to make that I didn't want to make. That's the best way to describe it, right? I felt like I had to do it, but I didn't want to. How hard was it for you guys when all that was going down? Tripp, let's start with you.
It was tough. It was the Classic in Knoxville was tough, knowing that some of those guys would never come across that stage again.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I will tell you there were probably some anglers that needed to move on.
Yeah.
And I've said that publicly. I don't hide from that fact. But it was tough. These are guys I've been around, you know, half of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with Bass 30 years, and for 28 of those years, I was around a bunch of those guys. And you know, you're not just a tournament director and an angler. You become friends. You see the kids grow up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Some of it was tough. You know, I'd be foolish to sit here and say it wasn't tough.
Yeah. Dave, do you want to jump in on this? Because it you know, I think for me, I can tell you, I'll give you an exact time when it really hit me, was when I was at the Classic that Hank won last year. It really hit me there. Because I got to see you guys. You guys were working. You guys were hustling. And I had to watch this event that I competed in my whole life. And it hurt. It hurt me. And I missed you guys. I missed you. Tripp, you hit it right on the head. It's like family, right? You miss the people that you have been around since I was a kid. I was in my fucking 20s when I started at Bass. I missed you guys. I felt that. It was hard. Dave, jump in. How hard was it when all this went down?
I agree. I mean, I've always said it was really hard. I mean, and it'll never be the same. To be honest, it'll be totally different, but I think it's okay to say it'll never be the same, because we all experience, so many of us, and for so many years, we all experience so many different things together that can never even be repeated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, even as simple as that Philadelphia moment. I mean, that is something that is going to bond all of us forever, but it can't ever be repeated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that it's so, it's tough. I mean, we were a group of people that I never expected to not work with you, to not work with Kevin, to not work with Ott, to not work with, the list goes on and on. I mean, these were people that I expected to spend the rest of my career with. So yeah, it was tough. I mean, and I think it'll always be tough, but I just, it's just a kind of a crappy deal that everybody, you know, like outside of all the bull crap and jokes and Boyd impersonations that I do on a weekly basis, these are people I love and people who are friends. And I've always said from the start, I almost haven't judged people as much, you know what I mean? On their reactions and how they dealt with it. Because if you get one wrong text you get one wrong phone call. All of us, we know that. Nobody's going to ask what league you're fishing or where you're at. So yeah, to put it in perspective, it's very tough, but I also I've tried to not overthink it too much too, but it sucks to go through, I think, for all of us. But yeah. I mean, thankfully, I think it sucks for some others a little more.
Well, here's the good
I'm
news.
biased, sorry.
Yeah. Here's the good news. And Pete, I want to have you chime in on this. Here's the good news. I think bass is doing amazing. In its own right. They went on, and bass is doing great. There are new guys. There are more opportunities for new guys through bass. I think MLF is doing great, right? And there are guys there that are excelling. So I think the sport is okay. Would you agree with that, Pete? Now we're 3 years, 4 years into it now. Would you agree with that?
The sport being okay?
Yeah.
After the fracture? Yeah, I mean, I get – we didn't – you know what was interesting? When this split happened, we were watching the MLF stuff and then the Bassmaster stuff. We're like, none of us really knew which way it was going to go. Like, are the fans going to, where are they going to go? So it was, I would watch both tournaments and try to figure out what was going on. And I'm like, man, I loved watching those MLF guys fish. And then Dave and the Bassmaster crew would get out there and I'd be like, oh no, that's the best thing to watch, and you just flip back and forth, but it's the sport's expanded. There's more people in it. I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but I got to say, you guys, are doing fantastic. It seems like Bassmasters is really thriving right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you guys agree?
I would. Yeah. I truly am like just a fan of all this. I mean, Brian and myself, I guess we would be the most kind of out of the circle as far as this goes. Like, we're not bass pros. We never have been. And like you said, Pete, I enjoy watching all of it. But I guess it's something about that when I started watching fishing and started, following it, it was Bassmaster. That's all I had.
Right.
So there's something about, like you said, the music and the blue and gold, the emblem. It's just
the 5 fish limit.
When I think fishing, I still think Bassmaster.
Yeah. Yep, that's embedded in who you are. Let me remind everybody, we have an amazing show tonight. We have 2 iconic people of the sport on right now. I can't say it enough. Trip Weldon, Dave Mercer on with us. If you have a question or comment, please let us know. Riz, let's patch a couple through. I know we're way behind on getting some comments through.
Yeah, it's been an action-packed night on the message board, and it's really been a fun show too. But the first one is Dave, the Wawa Hoagie lady wants to know why you never answer her FaceTimes anymore. And by the way, she is from New Jersey.
And she's probably a he, so you're not in any trouble.
She might be a he. Yeah.
She may have been a camera boat for you.
Oh.
A Wawa Hoagie lady? I don't know about the Wawa Hoagie lady, but hey, I'm welcome to accept FaceTimes from any pseudo ladies. The road's a lonely place.
You might
just tell her you have a flip phone.
I answered this one.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Sure.
And Jacob Turner wants to know who was between Mark Davis and Todd Faircloth. Who was the slower of the talkers?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Trip.
That's a tight race.
That's a tight race. That's a tight race, but I'm going to give it to Mark Davis just because I do a little segment pre-COVID. I used to do a segment on bass called 6 Seconds, and now I'm not allowed to be anywhere near anglers. So hopefully we'll get back to doing that. But I do a segment called 6 Seconds where you get 6 seconds to answer. And every single time I ever interviewed Mark Davis, he would start off by saying, "I'm from Arkansas, so I get longer."
I checked. I'm looking here, and I've got one from Instagram, and this one's Ed Sekula chiming through. And this is a question for both you guys. And Ed wants to know, who were your favorite co-workers at Bass over the years? Tripp, let me start with you. I know there's been a lot of co-workers you've worked with that are awesome. Favorite co-workers at Bass?
Well, I've said this, that one of my proudest deals was the longevity of our staff. I mean, we have everybody on the Bass staff is getting close to 20 years or more. So Chris Bowes, Gretchen Shepard, Chuck was there over 20 years. But if I had to pick one favorite guy, it's the guy I kept his picture up on my bulletin board after he passed away, and that was James Pooley Dawson.
Yes.
He's one of the coolest.
Right around.
He was one of the coolest guys.
Right?
We love Pooley.
Same time.
He was like a
close
father.
to the Philly event that he passed.
He was like a father figure to a whole bunch of us at Bass.
Wow.
He was Pooley was awesome, and I want to tell you my story real quick. I fished a invitational at Okeechobee. Pete, you fished the same one, and I want to say it was like late 90s, 97 or 98, and I caught a bass in that tournament that regurgitated a snake. This isn't a joke. He actually regurgitated a snake in my live well, and I looked at it floating in there. You're not allowed to like stuff back, forage or anything. Once it regurgitated, it's out. But I took that snake and I put it in my weigh-in bag, and I went up and I dumped it in the fish dump station. And when that snake came back, I've never seen him jump as far when that snake came out. I'll never forget that story. That was awesome.
What kind of snake was it?
It was like a water snake. I don't remember, but it was a snake. It was not as good a snake. Dave, same question. Favorite coworkers over the years at Bass?
It's an impossible question to answer. You know what I mean? Like really, I mean, Tripp. Honestly, he's one of the people that it's weird. It's one of those things people say, "Oh, you don't realize until somebody's gone." But just the Tripp's just Tripp. I mean, he's fast. You know what I mean? He's just such a pillar. But I mean, if it wasn't for Mark Zona, I wouldn't have freaking had the job. I mean, Kevin and Mark were the guys who really went to bat for me. But I gotta say, the guy who I've spent the most time with, and probably I've eaten the most meals with, is James Overstreet. I mean, Street is Street's my guy.
Takes a pretty good picture too.
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. And the crazy thing about Street and Tripp saw it is, I mean, he is uber talented. Like, there's a lot of photographers, but the difference is, and I watch photographers on a weekly basis get frustrated by Street because he just is like, we spent not only, I mean, for years, it was me and him every day on the boat together, covering the events. So, but we would be literally just blasting down the lake, and we hated camera boat drivers, so we'd drag Street's boat to every event, right? And we'd do this, and we'd be blasting along, and he'd be like, "Hey, fool, pass me the camera." So, and I'd pass it wrong. Give me big lens, fool. So I'd pass it to him, and he'd go hit something, and then you'd look in the gallery, and there would be a freaking eagle. You know what I mean? Like the most majestic. And we didn't even come off plane. You know what I mean? You see the photographers set everything up and everything. And he is just a naturally uber talented, awesome individual. Like, I mean, a great dude and honestly going to be one of my best friends till the day I die. You know what I mean? Like he's not a fishing friend. He's a friend, man, and to all of us.
J.O.'s a good dude.
He's like Danny Brower to content guys. Like
he's
like the photographers, they see him and it's like they get like all geeked out.
Iconic, legend.
Yeah.
I'd agree. J.O.'s a good dude. While you were talking, Dave, Becky came up. I guess the kids are in bed, and this is a great segue. I want to revisit the family aspect. Beck, these two guys, Tripp and Dave, have been through a lot with us over the years. Our relationship started with Bass, And it continued. We've had kids. We've learned how to back up trailers. We've put a boat in the woods. We had an umbrella through Vegas's lip, all through these guys right here.
I know. Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Oh, I can't hear myself.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
No, I think.
Hey, Becky.
I think Trip and Chuck probably disciplined my children more than I did when they were little, because I was so exhausted living in campgrounds with those two little gremlins.
Yeah.
And we'd get to the boatyard, and they'd be like, Vegas, Stella, and I'm like, oh, thank God, someone yelled at them. I think Trip and Chuck yelled at them the most.
Yeah.
No, I joke. They didn't really yell at them,
No,
but
yeah.
they saw them all running amok, climbing on boats, and
Yeah.
we had a lot of little kids running through those boatyards.
Yeah. Well, when stuff would happen to me in tournaments, there would be 2 phone calls. The first one would usually be to Becky. You know, if it was an emergency or something happened, I would call you. The second call would go to Trip. And then the one I remember that sticks out in my mind is the year that I put the boat in the woods at the Sabine. Mm-hmm. And I called Becky first to say I was okay. You know, in the age of social media and people posting stuff like that, I knew it was going to get out there. So I called you, and then I called you, Trip, second. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the extent of, I'm in the woods right now. My boat is in the woods. I'm okay. My Marshall is okay, but we are in the woods. I think that's how I said it. Something like that.
I remember that phone call.
Yeah, that was a strange call. Yeah.
That was a strange call.
Yeah, I've never been in the woods before with a boat, so it was strange. But Becky, over the years, I mean, this was like family for us for a lot of years.
Yeah, I think the only person that I ever truly made speechless was probably Eric Lopez, because I think he is scared of blood and guts and gore. And when I walked up to him with Vegas just bleeding blood all over me, we looked like we had been through a war.
St. John's River.
Vegas took the metal tip of an umbrella right through his chin, for people that don't know, straight up into his mouth, like towards his nose.
It was horrific.
He had a gaping hole in his chin.
It was horrific.
I'm holding him, and I remember Eric just looked at me and he's like, what do you want me to do? And that's when I looked at him. I was like, okay. I was like, I need you to get an ambulance. He's like, an ambulance? I was like, clearly I'm not driving, so why don't you get an ambulance and the ladies will take care of the rest of it. And I'm telling you, every wife jumped in. They got you off the water. They backed the boat down. They took Stella, everything else. But poor Eric, Elo, he looked like he'd seen a ghost when he looked at me.
All the stuff that's happened over the years. There's so many amazing stories. It's great.
There are.
Good and bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Trip, do you get calls now? They're like, oh crap, Trip, the wind's blowing from the east. The guys are complaining. What do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, that's a great question.
No, I talk to the tournament guys all the time, and gals, Lisa, and I got to tell you what I do get. I get texts like a guy texted me the other day, hey, I want to be a marshal in the Classic. I texted him back. I said, just so you know, I'm retired. You need to contact me. I get those kind of calls. So I told him earlier, Dave, I said, I miss being around the team and all, but I sure was glad I wasn't in Florence, Alabama, trying to make the call on the weather and high water and all that stuff. So it's nice to be a couch potato and look at it on the internet and watch it like a junkie, like a tournament junkie.
I wouldn't have canceled that day. I don't know what they're doing over there at Fast these
days. At the first event of the year, we were in fog delay, and me and Trip were texting. I was still on the dock, and I actually announced it to the anglers because Trip let me know, don't worry, on Lake Jordan, I'm in fog delay right now, enjoying a coffee. So enjoy yourselves at takeoff. So he was in fog delay while we were in fog delay. But I will say this, guys, and Trip, you got to know this, because I'm telling you, and I told this story on live, but it blew me away. It was one of the things that really shows how special Trip is. So we're in Palatka for, to kick off the season. And I go down the elevator and I'm riding it with Craig Lamb. And it was the first day of the season. And it was the first day without Trip Weldon. So the elevator doors open, and in this luxurious Hampton that we stay in, which I love the Hampton. I got mad Hampton points. But while we're in the Hampton, the doors open and there's nobody in the kitchen area, right? And Craig says, how different this is than last year. Because if you remember, last year we had a bunch of delays in Palatka as well, but the entire kitchen was full. And Craig says, well, maybe that's because of the weather. And I said, no, it's not. It's because of one person. And it really was. It had nothing to do with the weather. Because here's the difference. The year before, we were dealing with weather, but Trip was sitting in there. So every single time that elevator door opened, and every single one of us, no matter what department, whether it was an angler, whether it was media, no matter what person it was, we saw Trip and we were like, we're okay to stay in here and have breakfast. because Trip wasn't there, everyone's like, well, we better get to the dock. And that's really the amazing thing about Trip. Yeah. I mean, he is what your stereotypical amazing leader is. And that's what I will say about Trip. He led through example, and I get emotional talking about Trip because it really is amazing, and he's a huge part of our team that I don't think ever will be replaced. You know what I mean? There'll be, just like the people that came before Trip will never be replaced. They are an iconic part of the history of our sport. Yeah. And we're very lucky to have had them. And I'm lucky to have spent the time that I've been lucky enough to spend with Trip.
I'd agree with that. 100%. I'd agree with that. I can't thank you guys, both you guys, enough for coming on the show. And here's something I want to end this with, and this is from the bottom of the heart, and this is the truth. Both of you guys, Trip and Dave, both of you guys, we talked about some iconic people in the sport. We talked about Ray Scott, Helen. We talked about all these amazing figures that changed the sport, that shaped the sport. Both you guys have done that already, and both you guys will be in the Fishing Hall of Fame. I promise you, because you're that important to the sport. I cannot thank you. Becky and I cannot thank you enough for the years we spent with Bass, being a part of that family. It's our life. It's who we are. And I can't thank you guys enough for it. It just means so much to us. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
I
look forward to seeing you guys down the road somewhere, maybe at the Classic.
I hope so.
I totally agree with the Hall of Fame thing with Trip, but let me just let Trip, while we got this guy on the line, let's just throw it out there. Ike, I'm going to ask you the freaking question everyone wants to know. Yeah. Stop pussyfooting around. When are you coming back to the freaking Elite Series, dude? We know you want to come back. I mean, you were out there freaking trolling on every podcast. What? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm all confused. I know your games. Trip knows your games.
Just get him, Dave.
What? And one thing, answer this honestly.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I'm retired like Trip. Why you didn't ask Trip what he's doing in the next couple?
Dave loves this topic. I've seen you and Duncan talking about this, Dave. You guys love this topic.
Get him, Dave.
We don't talk about this topic, but we might talk about it every Wednesday. LG and the put a little hump back in your
There goes the plug. I like it. Let me tell you this. I will answer that. I will answer this. I won't answer it the way you want it answered, but I will answer it. I will answer it, Dave. And this is a great end to this.
Oh no! And here's the part where
the carpenter, quick, cut it out. Cut it out. Add the static, quick. No, I will answer it. I will answer it. I think it's a great ending to this segment. I honestly, I am very uncertain about the next few years, but I will say this. If I end my tournament career somewhere officially, I would like to end my tournament career at Bass. I really, really would. And if I could write a book, right now in my life, I would love to compete and win again at the highest level at Bass before I officially retire. So I that's not a real answer, but it's sort of an answer that I might be back. One day. Maybe.
And he'll probably have 7 specials with big announcements before.
But Dave, don't worry, we got something big coming real soon.
We do. and we're going to make an
use
announcement.
this discount code.
Yeah, we're going to make an announcement about that announcement in the next Ike Live show, so you got to watch again.
Next Sunday, maybe.
Next Sunday, maybe. Trip, Dave, I can't thank you guys enough for joining us. You are the best. You guys rock, and you're friends to us all. And thank you guys for being our friends all these years. Trip Weldon, Dave Mercer,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We love you.
Good luck
Love you
tomorrow,
guys.
Dave.
Good night.
Night.
Oh, man. Dude, isn't that great? Can you believe I still can't even believe we got Trip on Ike Live.
I know.
I wanted Trip on Ike Live for like 10 years since the beginning of the show.
I got to see a bit of it, and then I had to get the kids to bed, and then I kind of fell asleep putting the kids to bed. But I got to see.
I forgot about just recalling that now that you said that I tried to get Trip on the show.
Yeah.
Back there was some controversy that had taken place, and I wanted Trip to come in and weigh in on that controversy, and it was just crickets.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it, and
not until he retired.
Right, it makes sense though, Pete. Right, when you're engaged,
absolute sense.
Yeah, when you're engaged in it, right? It's almost it's borderline conflict of interest to come on and talk.
Oh, especially this.
Yeah, I know, especially this mess. But
absolutely,
dude, how great was it, Beck? I know you heard most of the show, Pete. How great was it to hear the stories, to hear the passion? I said it to Trip. I looked at that camera and I said it. I didn't always agree with his decisions. There were days I was mad at Trip. There were days I was angry at the decisions he's made. But I never questioned his authority and how hard it was to take that job. That was a tough job. And I respect the hell out of him. I always will for being that tournament director.
He literally was the principal of a high school.
He was the principal.
Yeah.
He was a sheriff.
That's a good analogy.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, Becky. That's a good analogy.
But of a boys' school.
Yeah. What was the principal at Triton? Do you remember his name? Dr. Capelli. Mr. Capelli.
Capelli was the main principal, yeah.
He was Capelli.
Yeah, and then Steinmetz. He was the...
Steinmetz. Stymie.
Yeah. Stymie, yeah.
How
He was very...
Didn't you make a song about that?
No. Did we make a song about Stymie?
No, that was middle school.
Oh, middle school. Yeah. Who was the principal there?
Cook.
Cook.
Spelled C-O-C-H.
Yes, Cook.
Sounds like
Trip was the principal.
Was Cook?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Mr. Cook.
That's the lies they were teaching us in middle school.
Yeah.
I don't think
Trip was the principal.
Yeah.
Trip was the principal of a very dysfunctional high school of all men wearing weird uniforms.
Yeah.
Boats that don't burn gas.
He was. But he'll always be an iconic part of the sport, which is really cool. And he does belong in the Hall of Fame. I hope he gets
one of 3.
Yeah.
50 years of Bass, and he's one of 3 tournament directors.
One of 3.
Yeah.
Not including the current.
Well, there is.
director.
I don't think they've named an official count.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I don't believe.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. That's cool.
Can you imagine sitting up?
I don't know anything.
Can you imagine sitting up sweating over those decisions? Like,
tough.
All right, you can have one hook, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But only one blade, but it can't have multiple baits.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How do you sit up at night?
Tough.
Trying to solve those things,
Tough decisions. I mean, the disqualification portion of it and the penalty portion of it has got to be the toughest.
That's the toughest, especially when you're dealing with like situations of Sabine where there was off limits and he said and then
some
he
of those
said
waterways those rules are so gray and
and then you're getting
a bunch of intertwining canals.
yeah.
Super tough. I would.
And he says,
I would never want to be him. in any of those decisions. It was tough, man.
He just shucks it off like, there's a lot of sleepless nights. I'm like, my God, we should have asked him, are you in therapy? I mean,
listen, whoever ends up as the tournament director next is the one who's going to end up with some serious therapy. Because let's be honest, like, I don't know, have the weather conditions gotten worse, or are we just more of like a cautious culture?
Yeah, we talked about it.
We talked about
it. That's not even a question.
Did you guys? I didn't get to hear.
It's a different culture.
It's a different culture.
Way different.
So you can't you can't make a mistake. Like back in the day, you could make a mistake, but you meant well, and everyone would forgive you. Now you make a mistake.
That's because
and you're
stupid people have the loudest voices, smartest people.
And Tripp talked about that. Tripp talked about one of the hardest things for him was to jump in those chat rooms and have to see those comments.
Online chat rooms.
Yeah. Online chat rooms. Luckily, he got to spend a lot of his 30 years without that, right? You know, social media is a relatively new vehicle. So, but it doesn't, it's hard, Brian. We talk about it all the time. It's hard. It's hard for me now. I see, you know, you go to your social media and see somebody say something bad, or it's hard. It's hard to stomach that. You know?
Man, let's not even go this direction.
Yeah.
I
know. Let's leave it.
I'm going down a dark rabbit hole in my head right now.
Yeah.
Let's go somewhere else.
And the other
what about canceling Pickwick? Do you think that tournament should have been canceled?
I don't.
Mike?
I don't. I didn't want to get into it. I still don't. And I did something I don't normally do, is I chimed in on a few of the guys' posts. I chimed in on Corey Johnson's post and Chad Morgenthaler's post, and I basically chimed in like I was sort of like saying it without saying it, that it shouldn't have been canceled. And dude,
I don't pay attention for one day.
People were attacking me.
Seriously?
People were attacking me for commenting on their post. Like, I don't give a shit. Fuck you. I don't give a shit. I don't tournament fish anymore.
Oh gosh.
I don't care.
No. But
I don't care.
But those people feel like it's their right to comment. But when Mike commented, then it wasn't okay.
No, it was not okay.
This is the part about social media.
Look, everybody's entitled.
Everyone
to
is
their own opinion.
entitled to free
But
speech,
hold
but
on,
you're
hold
not
on, no, wait.
entitled to an opinion.
Some people, this is a fact. I hold this as a fact.
Yeah.
Some people should not be entitled to an opinion. They need to be a fucking test and say, you got to pass this test or you don't get an opinion. And there's a lot of people. We would save a lot of problems.
We better change the subject fast.
All right, but here's I'll change the subject. I'll change the subject and get back to the real question, Pete, which I'll throw back to you, which is, should that have been canceled? In my opinion, you have changed outcome. You've changed history by postponing it 2 days, right? I like the fact that they had high turbid water, that it was flowing in, flooding shit. Go deal with it. Let me see how these guys deal with it. Let me see. Was it really a safety issue? I don't think there was any safety issue.
Well,
was it really?
I'm ignorant to the circumstances that they were dealing with, right? I just have the general information that came to me that, you know, that we had a lot of rain. The floodgates were piling. Now, I think it's Florence, they launch. And when you come out of that harbor, you're in the tail race, basically. Right?
Yeah.
So you're letting boats go in a very treacherous environment.
The boats are
right
fishing
there.
up there in those treacherous conditions today, yesterday, and today.
Well, you know, that's the only unknown to me. But to me, as an angler, I absolutely want them to go. I don't know what to do when that happens. What do you do when the water comes up 7 feet? Right. You know, I want to see them solve that puzzle.
I want to see that too.
And where's the risk versus reward for, like, you know, like the entertainment value? Because, like, if like we truly want to grow the sport and, like, you know, get all these new eyes.
Look at NASCAR. They fucking
like,
let them guys
there's
run.
wrecks and there's all this stuff. Like, I'm not saying that I want I don't want guys to go out and rip their motor off on trees. But
it sounds like what you're saying, Riz. Let them die.
No, not at all. I'm saying
we used to fish on Erie where people lost their motor.
Yeah, so like,
you know what I mean?
Like,
but you're not allowed to lose your boat anymore because stupid people have an opinion on social media.
Somebody that's not a fan of fishing, that's a draw. Like, it's interesting.
Because apparently people are an endangered species, and you know.
people.
We have to protect every one of them.
Protect people. We love people.
Right.
I'd love to keep
We
talking
actually
about
do
this.
love people.
We do. We love people. We love
That's
people.
too many of them.
Let's use this, Pete, as a segue
Yeah, to an unboxing.
to an unboxing.
Yes.
And this is why Mystery Tackle Box has stayed with us all these years.
They love people
here.
too.
Yes, they love people, and we love people. Let's use this as a segue to do an unboxing. And I mentioned it earlier in the show, but we love Brian Carpenter. We love.
I can see the title
we
now.
love. We love doing these elite boxes, and we've been doing them now the past 6 or 7 shows, and we're going to do a live unboxing. We're the only live podcast that does that, and this sound, Miss Rebecca, you know I love it. Let me put the mic close to it. You ready? Wait.
You didn't even get it.
Hold on, I didn't get it. It's not sure. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. You heard it. That's the snap of that tape breaking, and I love that about this. And we're going to get to see baits that we might not normally get on our own or see on our own. Latest techniques, latest baits right at your fingertips once a month to your door. This is a Mystery Tackle Box Elite. I'm going to grab one. Beck, you want to grab one?
I
We're
don't
going to
know
give it
why
over
you
to
have
Riz.
me grab. Like, why do you people have me grab?
Because
one?
I want you to grab it, dude. I know,
Dude, what?
Yes,
What?
That's right. That's why
What?
I grabbed it, because it might not be going back in that box. You know what I'm
Stop
saying?
it. Let me look. You just
Get
talk about
something.
your stuff.
That's a good one. Let me get that. I know.
You just talk amongst yourselves.
Dude.
All I needed to see was the gold label.
Jeez Louise. This is crazy. I can't even believe that's in here, to be honest with you. This is unbelievable. All right, grab one.
All right.
All right. All right, we're going to pass it over to Riz.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, you got to taste
Damn,
this.
dude.
Is that the good stuff? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to taste this.
Oh, wait, something new?
Yeah, this is the
Oh, it smells really good.
Yeah, this is the new tin cup.
What?
This is the 10-year. You're going to like this stuff. This is unbelievable. Here we go in our mystery tackle box elite unboxing. And Pete, I'm going to start. Brian the Carpenter, I went for and this just tells you about the kind of stuff that's in an elite box. So if you're watching and you get the pro
sick.
box right now and you're saying, man, I might step up, this is the deal. You ready for this? Here it goes. I have an evergreen jerk bait. This looks like a long bill model. This is the FA115. I don't know what any of that means, except Evergreen makes really good stuff. It's a Japanese brand. This looks like a nice deep diving jerk bait. It's in a shad pattern. It's got 3 hooks. I like this because listen to me, dude, when a jerk bait bite is on, I'm a Rapala shadow wrap shad fisherman. I love the Rapala shadow wrap. But when that jerk bait bites on, sometimes it's good to have different brands on, right?
Man's got to have options.
Different sound. One dives a little deeper, one dives a little shallower. I like this, and I don't even know where they sell this bait. So mine's an evergreen jerk bait. Beck, what do you got? What did you pick out of your Mr. Tackle Box?
How about that whiskey, Beck?
Oh my God, the whiskey's so good.
Yeah, the whiskey's great.
It's amazing.
It's actually bourbon.
Yeah.
True.
The recipe qualifies as bourbon. Yeah.
10-year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But carry on.
Beck, what do you got?
Okay. Here today, we have the Shimmer Shad.
Yes.
Actually, I have to be honest.
That looks pretty real.
It's pretty cool, and it has strobe strips. Basically, it's just like little reflector strips up inside the bait, which is kind of cool. I like that they call them.
It's a minnow bait, and they poured a piece of metal flashing in the middle of the bait, which is really cool.
It's kind of cool. But you know the one thing I appreciate about this box, on the back, they show you how to rig it, too. So that's kind of nice. So, like, if you're like a more entry-level angler,
that is nice.
You got like how to rig as well.
I can't tell you how many times I read those packages when I got started in the sport. That was because we had nothing, no content to look at. Yeah. I read those things more than I read the back of a cereal box.
Wow. All right, Riz, what do you got?
I got a Lake Fork Trophy Lures live magic shad.
Magic shad. Ooh, a classic.
Guess what I would be putting that on the back of.
Chatterbait.
Dude, this looks like my go-to trailer, but you know what's different? It's it's a little bit smaller.
Smaller.
That's the OG.
In that tail.
So let me call that one out real quick.
Go ahead.
The Zako was designed based off of this bait.
I
Because
believe it.
this
Right.
Magic Shad's the one that everybody threw, and B-Height
Yep.
and all those guys threw this until they worked with Yamamoto to design that other one. So that's the OG chatterbait.
Yeah,
That's right.
I might have to look into these. And one thing I'm noticing, Mike, is the tail on this.
It's
on,
forked.
Yeah, it's forked. On the Zako, it stays in line with the bait.
Yeah.
On this one, it's that way. What would the word be?
horizontal.
Yeah,
Oh,
horizontal.
so one swims like a fish and one's a mammal.
Well, one's going to go like that. One's going to go up and down. I don't know. Maybe this would lift over cover a little bit more because it's got
And
that
here's the thing
angle.
about the Zako. Everybody's throwing the Zako.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
a little change like that
Tough bite. This is a little smaller.
might make a big difference. Or even that. Look at
This is the
this.
first time I've had one of these in my
Look at
hands.
that thing on a chatterbait.
Yeah. At Mystery Tackle Box. See, look, guys, I throw a chatterbait all the time, and I haven't had one of these in my hands to look at before.
There you go. Perfect example
Yep.
of why MTB.
Whoever's winning this box is not getting anything.
They're not
in
getting
it.
anything because we're keeping all this shit. I already hid the evergreen one. All right, Pete, what do you got? No, hell no. I ain't no. No, hell no. Pete, what do you got?
Man, you stole mine, Riz, because I was going with this.
Oh,
The-
Pete was going for the same thing.
I got the live Magic Shad. I'm like, man, remember when we all used to throw these?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this was the Lake Fork was the absolute deal.
Shout out
Um,
to yeah. What else you
and-
got there?
Cool.
I got, I was going to go with the Guggen. It's a clickbait. That's funny. It's a good name. It's vibrating jig, but it's too much like the shutter bait from Terminator, so it's fired. And,
It's fired. Pete just fired one of our sponsors for us.
You're fired. Fired.
So,
Fired.
I'm going with the Rattlebot, which is a lipless bait. It's a really crazy, realistic
I saw that.
crawl
Yeah, I saw that in the box.
looking
That's interesting.
bait.
You got that, Bri?
It's-
Let's
I
see
do.
it.
It's that time.
I need my glasses.
Yeah.
It's the water temperature was 44 degrees where I launched my boat today, so this is perfect.
You launching in the
For this
Northeast
bait.
today?
I launched in the Susquehanna today.
In the Susquehanna.
44 in the Susky.
44.
Yeah,
Ooh, cold coming down that river.
it's
Yeah.
warm.
Dip your
It's up from
fanny in the
40
Susquehanna.
degrees.
Huh.
Why would you
It was
do that?
40 degrees just 7 days ago.
Remember that song?
Wow. She warming up.
Mm-hmm.
This is rattle.
Oh,
What's this about?
it's a one knocker.
It's subtle, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
You sure about that?
Yep.
Pete might have a different one than you have.
I feel like there's two knockers in there.
It's a dual knocker.
I
Did you say two knockers?
I prefer two knockers.
I prefer syrup. Bri, what do you got? You got anything in there that's is catching your fancy?
Pretty much everything you guys got.
Everything we already pulled.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
All
pretty cool.
And some big bite Senkos for Pete.
There you go.
Yes.
A lot of good stuff.
Yes.
That was
What's
a
up
good
with that
box.
jerkbait, dude? I'm gonna see that.
No.
He's not sure.
I ain't gonna get it back. Put it right in my pocket.
Dirty bastard.
Thing's not leaving. Dude, what a show! What a show!
Yeah.
I really I'm telling you, this was a good one.
That was fun, man.
This is a good one. I'm from a personal standpoint, Pete. I'm so glad I got to talk to Trip and say things that I didn't get to say a lot over the years. So
I can see that, and it was emotional.
Yeah.
And I could hear it coming from you.
yeah.
And Trip too, and Trip definitely. I'm so happy that he's got an edge on his illness.
Yeah.
And that's such amazing news, and he's definitely relaxed. It seems in his retirement, and
It's good. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Everyone
does.
deserves that in their retirement.
The
you
amount
know?
of fish that guy's seen, like he could predict the fish to like the millihundredth. You hold one up from like 3 miles away, it'll be like 2 3/4.
Yeah, he doesn't need to use the Normark scale
No.
when
He
he's
doesn't
fishing
need
these
'em.
derbies now. He's just like, yeah, it's
that would have been
it's a
that would have been
278.
Yeah.
that would have been a great question. Can you do that, Trip? But he is persistent. He's a great angler in his own right, and
He is.
a lot of people don't know that. But locally he crushes them
Yeah.
on Lake Jordan and Lake Martin, and I was fortunate to come out ahead on that Lake Martin tournament, and
What were you catching them on?
he had
Pete?
won so many. I was flipping a mop jig, the predecessor to the mop jig before that was designed.
Justin
a
Kimball special,
a big giant jig and a Carolina rig.
Would you catch them off that stump out in the open water?
Carolina rig.
That was the Carolina rig
How
bite.
deep
They were
was that
spotted.
stump?
They were in the 15-foot range.
Did the fish
If I
look
had
like
to-
arches, or did they look straight up and down?
No, that's back when
Dude.
sonar looked like pixels. So they were like
an
looked like
Etch-a-Sketch?
Red.
They looked like Pac-Man.
It was
down there.
paper
They were red hummingbird pixelated blocks.
All right.
You know, but yeah, they were spotted bass because the Martin is full of spots, and you know, I caught him. I was talking with Tripp about that because he fishes Martin, wins there all the time, and Jordan is where he lives. He just this weekend had lunker, a spot that was 4.8. Which was the lunker of the tournament, which is just a monster spot.
That's a big spot.
Imagine being a tournament director and weighing in Tripp Weldon's fish.
Wow, I know. That must be cool. That must be intimidating.
Yeah, seriously. Like, oh, don't
Yeah.
mess up.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're gonna have to remeasure that. Courtesy check. That would have been a good question. I always wondered about that. Mike, have you ever asked for a reweigh of your fish? Like
No,
when
but
the weight didn't come up right?
No, at MLF I did on the hand scale, but in the years of weighing at Bass, there were times where I wish I would have.
Me too.
You know, like when I weighed them and I got back and I'd get in the truck with Beck and I'd be like, there's no effing way. They were only 18 pounds or they were only 14 pounds, you know.
Yep.
There were times where I wish I would have. But a lot of times you get on stage, you get caught up in the moment, you know, so you're weighing in, you're thinking about, you know, saying something about the sponsors or whatever, and you sort of, you get caught up in it. But then you realize, you're like, damn, there's no way. I know I had more, you know. There are times I wish I would have called for a reweigh, you know.
But how many times, too, did you probably get a little extra off
And there may have been times, there are a lot of times where I weighed more than what I thought I had, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that weight, grab your bag, and get the hell off stage.
Run!
That didn't happen very often with Mike because he usually big eyes.
I big eye everything.
So if he actually weighed in more than what he told me he thought he had, I would be in the front row about falling over.
Yeah.
Like, oh, crap, we might make the cut. No way.
That's funny. So you like automatically, Becky, have to like deduct 2 pounds from whatever Mike tells you?
I do. I always do.
Yeah.
Whatever he tells me, I'm like,
big eye everything.
You got to believe it's a big one every time you set the
take
hook.
a bit off it.
Yeah.
Treat every fish like it's a big one. You'll be a better
Positivity.
person for it, you know.
Yeah, but when you're in it and you're part of the process, it's you tend to be very realistic about it. Like, it's one thing to be a fan at home watching and, you know, you're look at the bass track numbers and then you want to compare to the leaderboard. Because I find myself doing that now. I'm like, oh, well, they said they had this. Let's see what they really had. Like, I love playing that game. But when you're in it and you're part of the process of one of those people who has to actually weigh the fish to see if they're making it till tomorrow, it is way more stressful and you do not look at it the same way.
Yeah.
You know, there's a different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting now with the way that the Bass set up when they have no marshals or camera guys in their boat. So Bass is leaving it up to the angler to enter their own approximate weights. And I noticed over the last 2 days that a lot of guys just don't do it, right? And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't do it. Are you going to take time out of your limited 8-hour day to enter bass track weights on your own phone?
I would tell my husband
I ain't
not
doing
to.
that shit.
I hate it.
I wouldn't do it.
I mean, I get it for the fan, but I hated when they started entering weights because your day is shot. You spend the entire day staring at that stupid ass screen, waiting to see, did he catch another one? Did he catch another one? What does it weigh? It's so stressful. It's like a roller coaster where I like blissful ignorance. Let me wait till 3 o'clock where I see your face and I know if it's a happy face or a pissed off face. And then I know what the rest of my evening is. But I don't want to wake up and look at it at 9 a.m. and be like, Oh, it's a bad
Yeah,
night.
and then on the other hand, I don't want to sit through a weigh-in and watch 150 guys thank their motor for not burning gas. I'm out, bro. I'm out.
Dude, I can't explain it. I have to watch the weigh-ins.
Oh.
I watch them now more than I ever have, and I love watching them. And it's crazy. It's like you watch them catch them, and you watch them. They'll pick up the Rapala scale, or they have those yellow scales, and they weigh them. And I get so mad when the guys weigh their fish and don't call out the weight, like live on camera. Like, just tell me how much I watched this whole time, and you can't tell me it's 3.1. You know, and you know, but I love it. They'll call the weight out, and then in my mind, I'm like, well, he says they're all 3-pounders, so that's 15 pounds, but they look bigger than that. Gotta watch Mercer weigh them in, you know?
Yeah.
And I gotta sit there and I gotta watch it, man. I don't know what's happened to me, but in the last couple of years, I'm like a junkie. I gotta watch the live. I gotta watch the weigh-ins. I watch it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you guys scale your fish, or did you always just call it like tag them and beam them?
I never scaled my fish ever.
Yeah.
I always just used a balance beam.
Right.
You know, because the scales.
Ditto.
A little bit of it is my history with scales, because I'm an old guy. But the early scales, Pete, remember the early scales we used to use? The
waves would bounce you.
They were never accurate.
Yeah.
So I always was paranoid that I was misweighing fish.
Right, and
when,
gravity
when
doesn't
gravity never lies, you know. But
You know what? The scale in my bathroom's wrong too, so I don't.
I concur with that.
Cancel scales 2021.
The balance beams do not lie. That's the beauty of it.
They do not.
The thing I learned about culling, Rich, is like you're usually, most times, you're culling between 1 and 2 fish, maybe 3 fish you have in your live well, maybe. Because you always have 1 or 2 big ones. And you don't have to worry about them, you know, so you're just managing a couple fish. And the balance beam never lies. But there's been a few times when I've come across the stage, and that's why I actually had a question. Like, I've come across the stage and I'm like, man, I've seen a million fish. I know I had 18 or 20 pounds.
Where if you have weighed those fish yourself
I-
on an accurate
I would
scale,
have been-
you would know.
I would have been relaxed and said, you know, all right, they're within a pound.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right.
You know, and I would walk off not feeling like I got gypped.
That's a good call. I would say there's more. Would you say there's more guys now in the tournament scene using scales than not? I'd say there's more using them.
Yeah.
I see it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I don't love scaling. Like I do use the scale, but like I won't scale all 5. I'll scale like 2 or 3.
Right.
So that I can guess on the other 2.
When we grew up, the scale was the thing you got to take the like this, and you go backwards.
Oh,
from
the
tail.
the descaler.
Yeah, from the tail forward.
The
Put the bluegill on the board.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you had the cutting board that had the freaking jaws of life on.
Oh, here's some big news, real quick. Before we announce this winner here in a second, here's some big news, Brian the Carpenter. I found this out at Blackwater. I had to take a trip to Blackwater Tackle last week. You remember?
Yeah.
Put you on the job, right?
Yes, and I found out that New Jersey is doing a special trout season regulation. Instead of they have the regular trout opening day, which is, let me get this right so I say this right.
April 15th.
No, that's Pennsylvania. New Jersey is, hold on, I'm going to give it to you. New Jersey is April 10th is the official opening trout day of New Jersey, where you can go and fish for stock trout and keep them. But this year, because of COVID, you ready for this shit? They're opening up trout fishing on April 1st to catch and release fishing. So
Wait a
by the
second. On what day?
April 1st.
Yeah, good luck.
Which is April Fool's Day.
You can't get me.
So by default, no, this is true.
I'm out.
By default, on trout stocked fisheries,
you can bass fish.
You can bass fish legally now, starting on April 1st. Think about what that means. Now you can go that giant trout swim bait.
Wait, how did you get to that?
Because if you're allowed to go fish for trout on April 1st, catch and release only, legally, you can fish that fishery on April 1st for anything.
Correct.
It's not closed anymore.
Oh, I see.
This is big. If you're watching and you live in New Jersey, you want a chance to break the state record. Listen to me. Listen to me. Go to a trout stock lake that has some depth and throw a big trout colored swim bait. You have till the 15th. It cuts off April 15th. Bass cuts off. You have from April 1st to April 14th to catch a state record.
I hope
What about
everyone
April
took
10th?
notes.
You
Yes.
said April 10th is the official.
No,
opening.
April 15th, bass season closes
For the spawn.
for the spawn.
So he's saying you can get on to the trout
Right. This is
lakes
a very
because of
special
April
year.
1st, which will cross
Pete, this
over
is
to
a
the
very
15th.
special year. We got to get Robert Easley to fuck out of there. 1983, Manico Samponds. Get rid of this jerk off. He's been there too long.
I heard he cheated anyway.
Get rid of him.
We don't
That
know
was
that.
harsh.
Get rid of him.
No, I really.
We got to get him out of here.
Poor guy held the record too long, so now Riz is throwing his name as
I'm
mud.
saying whoa, whoa, whoa on all that. Whoa, 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 and whoa, whoa, whoa.
I'm just telling you. Let's set this up.
Did you woe me?
You want a chance to catch a state record?
No,
All right.
them two.
All right, let's change the
Interesting.
topic.
That
All
guy may
right.
still be around.
We want to thank everybody that watched tonight on Facebook. Thank you very much for tuning in this show on Facebook. It was an amazing show. We did the Ike Live like and share contest on Facebook to give away this amazing gift bag coming in at 21 pounds. Riz, give us a
Scales
winner.
off. That's 17.
Riz, give us a winner.
Yeah. We got Aaron Robinson tonight with the Facebook like and share winner for the amazing Ike Live gift
Aaron
bag.
Robinson.
Aaron,
winner tonight.
we apologize. Riz might ship it to you in a year.
No, I'll ship it to him on Tuesday. I'm caught up.
Riz is the new dream killer. We got to make a dream killer with Riz's picture in the middle of it now.
I was thrown under the bus for so many years.
I think I'm
it's
caught
Riz
up
now.
anyway.
Yeah, you're ready. Sir. You're
Hey,
ready.
and
Oh,
shout
no,
out-
Aaron. You'll receive a BU gift pack. And the BU guy will get.
The BU guy will get Ike Live.
Listen, dude, if you get anything, just be thankful.
Just be really, really excited.
You know the one thing you won't get is this evergreen jerkbait in my pocket. Nobody's getting that shit. Yeah, Brady Carver, what do you
I
got?
want to thank Tin Cup Whiskey.
Oh my God, so
The
good!
10-year.
Oh,
Yeah,
shout out
that
to
was
Tin
good
Cup,
stuff, man.
Yeah, that was
dude. That
really
was.
I want to
good.
say Tin Cup does a lot to support fishing.
They do.
So, guys,
Yeah.
Yep.
support Tin Cup Whiskey.
Yes.
Get out there and get some of that.
Yeah, and it's great. The 10-year we got tonight was.
They've got some
unbelievable.
things coming up that will be announced soon, but it's big. It's big for the community, for fishing,
Yes.
for the outdoors.
Yes.
They believe in it, and it's a good deal. And they also have a little thing going on with AFCO, so you can get some Tin Cup
You can. Yeah,
AFCO
go to.
gear
That's-
on their website.
That's right. Go to the Tin Cup Whiskey website. Got great AFCO gear, and it is
Yes.
American-made whiskey, which is great. Also, shout out to Founders tonight, Brian. We're drinking the Moon Ramblers. Riz has got a solid gold. Shout out to Founders. Great beer tonight. Want to thank our guests here, Brian the
Oh
Carpenter.
my goodness gracious,
Dude, Pete, Riz, Brian the Carpenter, Becky, me. That great show. But the main guest tonight, Trip Weldon and Dave Mercer. Man, what a show! Thank you guys for coming on.
Mike, can I give a quick shout out?
Yes, we'd love a shout out, Pete.
I have a couple things.
Nope.
Bass University is having a 50-50 right now, 50 days free, $50 off an annual subscription.
Wow.
And it's very popular. It's our most popular deal, and it's live right now. So definitely go check that out. And I can't remember the other one that I wanted. Oh, I remember now. I want to give a shout out to Kobe Krieger.
Oh,
yes.
Winning the Bassmasters right now.
Yeah.
And the Trailmaster trailer is what BTC is using on the Ike Live boat.
Wow. Yeah.
Which was at the Classic.
That's right. It's his family's company. Makes a dope trailer.
It's pretty dope.
Killer trailer. And Kobe, we're pulling for you, buddy, man. 2 more days. Good luck.
2 more days. There you have it. What a show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight.
I want to thank Sean McKee for tuning in. He said that was an okay show.
Oh, that's cool.
Shout out to you, Sean McKee.
Yeah. I was just going to it's funny you said that because I was just going to say, and I don't want to jinx it, but dude, we we continue.
Yes.
This is like 6, 7 shows in a row now.
That are all okay.
Dude, they're all pretty good. Pete, you got to
Pretty
admit.
okay.
You got to admit, though, like we've had a great run here of really freaking good shows.
Yeah.
It's starting to scare me because I know at some point we got to fall off the cliff.
We were close.
Tonight we're
a slow start.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing in here
That was
worked.
good.
Yeah, cool. That's
That was
awesome.
good. How long have we
I got
been
the
doing
Jotcast
this?
to work.
How long? Beck, 6, 7 years? What is it?
What?
Ike Live, 7 years.
7.
Oh my god.
2014, bro.
Yeah.
It's
speaking
so
of
hard
that,
to believe.
Speaking of that, seriously, on our guest list, Brian, we talked about this. On our hit list is to get Trent Cole back in the studio.
Yeah.
You know, we're sort of waiting a little bit. We feel like it's a couple months away. You know, vaccines start getting out there and all that. But, dude, he was one of our first guests when we sucked.
Show 3 or 4.
Oh, the studio just went down in just like a blazing flame of
Something happened. And it cut.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I did not know a damn thing. I
No,
still don't.
no.
I knew
Right.
a lot less then. And I got it up and running again. I thought we were live. We did like another hour of show that only the people in the room saw.
So we definitely need to get Trent.
And it was the best part of the show.
Oh, yeah. We need to get Trent back in.
Yeah.
It'd be good because it'd be like a flash. You know what I mean? It'd be like a full circle
Yeah,
thing.
look how far
Trent's
we've
great.
come.
Yeah.
We still suck.
We still
he's
suck,
the
yeah.
best to talk to at tournaments. He's always in such a good mood.
Oh, yeah. He's a
so
fish head, too.
positive. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he just wants to talk about
Yeah,
fishing.
that one winter derby that me and Brian fished, we caught like 2 fish out from under his boat.
Yeah.
And he was so distraught.
Yeah.
He came up to us in the tournament. I knew I seen you catch those fish. How'd you catch those? I was, you know. And he was so distraught that we caught these fish from under his boat.
Yeah.
You know.
And Trent's a big man.
Yeah, he's
It's
a
a
big
large
dude.
man.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yep.
piss off.
For those who
Trent.
don't know, he played outside linebacker. No,
Yeah.
defensive end. He was
Yeah.
an end.
that.
Yeah, for the Eagles.
I don't follow football that
Yeah.
much.
large Eagles football
Yeah, he's a
player.
bad dude,
Yeah.
and he's a good guy.
Sacked
He's a really good guy.
quarterbacks and stuff.
What a show! Want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. Looking for another good one coming up, Bri, possibly next weekend.
Yes.
We're going to see. We got a great hit list of guests. We really do. If we can get these scheduled over the next couple weeks. So, thank you for tuning in. What else you got? You got anything, Beck? You want to say hello to anybody or anything?
Please check out the Ike Foundation. We have so many things going on, but I'm so
Yeah.
tired to really tell you about all of them. But
Yeah, yeah.
here's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you.
Pro-Am.
I'll tell you.
Pro-Am's
I'll
coming
tell
up.
you more later.
Yeah.
But right now, the scholarship is about to close. If you are a high school
Yeah.
senior, or you know a high school senior that is
Yes.
going to college, and you want money for college,
Money.
we want to give you
Yeah.
money if you've
Yeah,
done
we wanna
something
give
in
you
the
money.
outdoors that gives back to your community.
Yeah.
So please head over to the page and fill out our application is not that bad. If you got into college, our application's doable.
Yeah.
So please check it out.
If you can't figure it out, you don't deserve it.
That's right. You don't deserve the money anyway.
True.
I mean,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, Riz, you got something?
Yeah, real quick. I met a fan of Ike Live and BU yesterday at the boat ramp at Anchor Marine. Mike from West Virginia. He's starting up or he's either starting up or he's on the West Virginia University fishing team. He I heard a Riz from behind me at the ramp and got to meet somebody. So shout out to you, Mike. It was good meeting you, man.
Shout out to Mike. Yo, Chode.
Yeah, Mike.
There you have it.
Mike. There's not a lot of Mikes out there.
Mike from West Virginia.
Mike
You know who you
from
are.
West Virginia. Just
We
narrowed
need
it
more
down.
Mikes.
Oh, no,
Just
Westchester.
narrowed-
Shout out to Tig.
Westchester. To West Virginia?
Wait,
Westchester.
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Oh, my. Dude, they're geographically completely fucking different places.
Let's
really
pour
far
another
apart.
tin cup,
Wow.
please.
Get that tin cup. 10 years.
Pour another.
Dude, in
pour another.
Westchester, you got a gat. In West Virginia, you got a banjo. They're completely
You
different.
don't have a gat in Westchester. Listen,
That's
anyways.
funny.
No, Westchester's nice.
Yes. What? But there's
No,
probably.
Chester's not
Oh,
nice.
Chester.
Westchester University.
Oh, yeah,
Westchester's very
Wait, wait,
nice.
wait.
Not Chester.
Westchester's very
Yeah.
nice. And there's probably more Mikes in Westchester, Pennsylvania
Yeah.
than there are Mikes in the state of West Virginia.
That's true. There are no mics.
Seriously, folks, get the 10 year.
love
You'll know where your
You'll
money
lose your
went.
sense of
Dude, it's
geography.
hallucinogenic. It's got a worm in it. Feeling a little queasy.
Money well spent.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Run for your lives.
Good night, Pete.
Good night, guys.
Yeah.
Bassmasters Classic, the Super Bowl of professional bass angling, the 20th World Championship. And what a contrast today's Classic is to Classic #1 20 years ago. 2 decades in which the pastime of bass angling has matured into one of the nation's most popular recreational activities.